Chapter 1577. Li Zongbao was still as graceful as ever. He didn't appear arrogant or domineering just because he had reached the foundation establishment stage at such a young age. Even when the young disciples who were at the 7th or 8th level of qi refining came out of the palace and respectfully saluted him, he only smiled and nodded. This kind of humility was like the warmth of the spring breeze, warming people's hearts. Li Zongbao entered the palace and saw that it was empty. In the middle of the palace, there was an incense burner that was as tall as 2 people. Incense was floating from the top. A skinny cultivator with pure white hair was sitting cross-legged in front of the incense burner. He seemed to be meditating with his head lowered. This cultivator was Li Zongbao's master, Heng Zhao. Li Zongbao didn't dare to make a sound. He took 2 light steps and stood inside the palace with his hands behind his back. After a while, a slightly old voice came from the incense burner. "Zongbao, you have reached the foundation establishment stage for several years. Have you stabilized your realm?" In front of the incense burner, Heng Zhao, who had his back facing Li Zongbao, had turned around. His pair of bright eyes stared at Li Zongbao and asked kindly. Hearing this, Li Zongbao took a few steps forward and came in front of Heng. He bowed and said with a smile, "Good, Master knows that this disciple's realm has already stabilized in the 2nd year. In these few years, I have been steadily improving, and there has been no stagnation." "Well, that's good. The foundation establishment stage is just a small beginning for you. The core formation stage is your real test. The foundation establishment stage is not like the qi refining stage. All the details must be cultivated. Do not be careless. Disciple understands. Thank you, Master, for your teachings," Li Zongbao said respectfully. Heng Zhao smiled again. "A few years ago in the country of Xi, although you revealed the soul accumulation talisman a little early and your qi refining was not complete, I have asked you to slow down your cultivation for the past few years. I presume you have more or less made up for your previous mistakes." "Yes, Master." "Good. In the 100 Zhang Peak of the Kingdom of Xi, you killed a devil from the devil realm," Heng Ming said while clapping his hands. But Li Zongbao frowned and said carefully, "Master, that blood shadow devil was not killed by me." "Ah, Zongbao." Heng Ju shook his head slightly. "I know you're magnanimous and disdain to steal credit from others. But that little rogue cultivator is only at the 2nd level of qi refining. If you hadn't restrained the demon's blood shadow, how could he have destroyed it? At the end of the day, he was just taking advantage of the magic tool. He was lucky that you didn't snatch it from him. What credit can he claim?" Li Zongbao blinked and remained silent. "What's more, you represented the Lian Kingdom and the Utopia faction at the 100 Feet Peak. You killed the blood shadow of the devil realm, and the Utopia faction deserved the credit. After you came back to report to me, I reported this matter to the sect leader. This is a great contribution of the Utopia faction after the battle in the Imperial Demon Valley. The sect leader has already reported this matter to the Celestial Alliance. But I don't know why the Celestial Alliance hasn't rewarded us yet." Looking at his master's white hair and the ardent hope on his face, Li Zongbao sighed in his heart and nodded. This disciple understands. What Master said is true. Haha, that's right. This is related to the reputation of the Utopia faction. How can it be taken lightly? Although Heng Ming said this, he still shook his head. He glanced outside the hall and said, "During the trip to the country of Xi, you investigated the matter of Ming Yang. Your martial uncle Cho Hui is very grateful and has praised you in front of me several times." "That's nothing." Ming Yang joined the Utopia faction with great difficulty. He just made some progress in his cultivation and then died. I'm afraid Uncle Cho is very sad, right? "It's not sad at all." Heng Ming sighed. He just wanted to help him on the road of cultivation because of his bloodline. Since he couldn't do it, he naturally had to give up. Now that you've found out the cause of this matter, your Uncle Master won't be worried about you anymore. That's why he's grateful to you. In fact, when he led Ming Yang into the Utopia faction, I had advised him against it. Mortals have their pleasures and cultivation families have their means. Our cultivation faction is very different from theirs. If we lead a disciple with an unstable foundation into the cultivation faction, it's tantamount to pulling a seedling to help it grow. It's not good for Ming Yang and your Uncle Cho Hui." Hearing this, Li Zongbao's mouth twitched slightly. There was a trace of helplessness in his eyes. He whispered, "Actually, This disciple understands Uncle Cho Huey's. Humph, Hang Ming snorted coldly. You understand. But you can't do what he did. Now he's caught in his own trap. He has worries in his heart and his cultivation hasn't improved for a long time. Previously, his cultivation was only slightly lower than mine. But now, he's only at the initial stage of the gold core realm. Looking at the situation, although the family's matter has come to an end, he's now cut off his worries and his cultivation should be able to improve. But the most suitable time has passed. I'm afraid he won't be able to conceive a baby in this life. A trace of despair appeared in Li Zongbao's eyes again. He seemed to be in pain, but this pain was quickly annihilated. How could Hang Ming see it? I called you here today to tell you that your Uncle Cho Hui just sent a message. The Tai Ching faction of the Meng Kingdom will host the Feather Fairy Gathering next year, and sent an invitation to the Utopia faction. Your Uncle Cho Hui has accepted the disciple selection for the Feather Fairy Gathering. According to his idea, he wants to give you a hand and let you be the deputy leader of the team. What do you think? Hearing this, Li Zongbao pondered for a moment and said in a low voice, I appreciate Uncle Cho Huey's kindness. But the Feather Fairy Gathering is in the Meng Kingdom. This is related to the reputation of the Utopia faction. I'm just a cultivator at the initial stage of the foundation establishment stage. How can I be the deputy leader? Uncle Cho Huey's idea is somewhat inappropriate. Hang Ming waved his hand and said with a smile, You don't have to worry about this kind of thing. Your Uncle Cho Hui won't assign you casually. The Feather Fairy Gathering is just a gathering of cultivators at the peak of the Qi refining stage. It's a chance to show off the strength of our faction and communicate with the disciples of other factions. Even if there is any victory or defeat, it's just a child's play in our eyes. Don't take it seriously. You're just a cultivator at the initial stage of the foundation establishment stage. It's just right for you to go there. Li Zongbao understood what his master meant. He had stepped into the foundation establishment stage at a young age, and was considered an outstanding cultivator among the various factions of the Lian Kingdom. If he went there as the deputy leader, he didn't need to participate in the exchange and could use his age to show off the strength of the Utopia faction. He was indeed a very good candidate. So Li Zongbao cupped his hands and said, I'll listen to Master and Uncle Cho Huey's instructions. Okay, then you should make some preparations. Refine and familiarize yourself with your magic artifacts. The Feather Fairy Gathering will be held next year. At that time, a disciple will inform you. Hang Ming waved his hand and said, Yes, I know. Li Zongbao nodded and then asked, I wonder if this year's Feather Fairy Gathering will still be held in the Xi Nation, the Meng Kingdom, or the Lian Kingdom? Yes, of course. Hang Ming said impatiently, When did the Han Kingdom participate? What about the cultivation families? Will they participate? Humph. How could they be qualified to participate? Hang Ming sneered and said, The Feather Fairy Gathering has always been a matter of the cultivation families. What does it have to do with them? Yes, I understand. I'll take my leave now. Li Zongbao didn't dare to say anything more. He bowed and was about to leave. Just then, Hang Ming suddenly asked, Zongbao, have you made a breakthrough in your parting love treasure mirror? Li Zongbao smiled bitterly and said in a low voice, I feel that I'm about to make a breakthrough. But there's always a barrier in front of me. I know the door, but I can't enter it. Mortal bond. Inner demon. Worry. Hang Ming said without hesitation, The parting love treasure mirror is the best cultivation method of the Tai Ching sect. It's the best way to cultivate to the gold core stage. At the same time, it's also the basic incantation to cut off mortal thoughts and condense a nascent soul with a pure heart. Zongbao, you have to take care of yourself. I understand. Li Zongbao lowered his head and replied with a slightly changed expression. After Li Zongbao left, Hang Ming only glanced outside the hall. He then turned around and closed his eyes to adjust his breathing. As for Xiao Hua, after leaving the Eastern Mountain Herb Garden, he used the lightning escape technique. His speed was much faster than before. He flew straight to Wuxian's cave in the 10,000 Thunder Valley. Before he landed, a divine sense swept past him. Xiao Hua was very familiar with that divine sense. It was Wuxian. Xiao Hua smiled and tried to release his own divine sense. When the two divine senses met, Wuxian's divine sense immediately retracted. as if he was afraid of damaging Xiao Hua's divine sense. Then, Wu Xian's laughter came from the cave in the distance. Ha ha ha, as expected of a disciple of the 10,000 Thunder Valley. You broke through to the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm in just a year. Your divine sense is also very authentic. Then, Wu Xian and Xianxia appeared in the distance. When they arrived, Xianxia also smiled and said, "Congratulations, little junior brother." Xiao Hua bowed to the two and said with a smile, "This is all because of Master's teachings and eldest senior brother's supervision." Ha ha ha. Wu Xian laughed again as if he really taught Xiao Hua. He then waved his hand and said, "Go, your master's wife has prepared a gift for you. See if it's suitable." When he heard that there was something to take, Xiao Hua immediately beamed with joy. He then followed Wu Xian and Xianxia into the cave. Inside the cave, Zhua Minghui and Yan Qinglian had already prepared the spirit wine and spirit fruits. When they saw Xiao Hua, they naturally congratulated him. When everyone was seated, the first thing Xiao Hua smelled was the fragrance of the emerald green spirit wine in the wine cup. This fragrance was very refreshing, fragrant, and pleasant. It was many times more tempting than the wine he tasted in the young immortal's cave. Good, good. No wonder eldest senior brother nagged master. This spirit wine is really good. Xiao Hua thought, but his eyes were glued to the wine cup. Cough cough, Wu Xian coughed and said, "Today is the happiest day in the 10,000 Thunder Valley." Since Xiao Hua entered the 10,000 Thunder Valley, he has been diligently cultivating. His cultivation has been constantly improving. Today, he has finally stepped into the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. Although he hasn't built his foundation, his divine sense has already been stimulated. Looking at Xiao Hua's cultivation, if nothing unexpected happens, building his foundation won't be a problem. It can be said that he already has 1 foot in the foundation establishment realm. Xiangyang's face was also full of smiles. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but after hesitating for a moment, he closed it again. He helplessly raised his wine cup and said with a smile, "Everyone, let's toast to the happy occasion of my 10,000 Thunder Valley." "Thank you, Master." Xiao Hua was very happy. He raised his wine cup and looked at everyone. After waiting for everyone to drink the wine, he also raised his head and poured the spirit wine into his mouth. As the spirit wine entered his throat, a burning feeling emerged from his throat. That feeling rushed to his head and flowed into his body along with the spirit wine. Ah! Xiao Hua didn't expect the spirit wine to be so spicy. He couldn't help but cry out. Chapter 1578. When Xiao Hua cried out, that spicy taste rushed to his nose and mouth. His eyes couldn't help but tear up, and those tears almost burst out. Just when Xiao Hua felt that he was being rude and wanted to wipe it away, that spicy taste suddenly flipped, and actually turned into an extremely cool and refreshing feeling. A wave of comfort formed in Xiao Hua's body. However, before Xiao Hua could carefully savor this comfortable feeling, that cool and refreshing feeling changed again, and the spicy taste appeared again. Ouch! 9 transformations of spirit wine. Xiao Hua suddenly thought of what Xiangyang said before. As expected, in just a few breaths, the 9 layers of spicy and refreshing feeling became stronger and stronger, tormenting Xiao Hua. However, after the spicy and refreshing feeling passed, no matter if it was his body or meridians, there was an incomparable feeling, making Xiao Hua extremely comfortable. His entire body slumped on the chair, and he didn't even want to move a finger. After a while, Xiao Hua saw that everyone was looking at him with a smile that wasn't a smile. He hurriedly straightened up and said with a smile, "Master, this spirit wine is indeed special." "Not bad, right? Do you want another cup?" Helplessly smiled. "Don't, Master, this is good, but disciple doesn't have the fortune to enjoy it. I really can't stand the feeling of surprise in the wine." Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand. "Disciple still likes the peaceful and fragrant spirit wine from eldest senior brother's place." "Xiao Hua, I see that you're not a person who adheres to old customs. Why do you like that kind of spirit wine?" Helplessly curiously said. "Only people like your eldest senior brother who don't want to make progress like the faint taste." Xiao Hua bitterly smiled, and said, "Disciple's nature is a peaceful person, and I don't like the taste of wine. On the contrary, eldest senior brother has always been thinking about Master's spirit wine." "Humph, Today is to celebrate you stepping into Qi refinement level 12, so I let him drink a cup. Otherwise, let him cultivate to foundation building middle stage first. At that time, I'll let him drink all the spirit wine here. Helplessly said angrily. Master, can disciple drink a few more cups today? Xiaohua smiled. Of course. Helplessly nodded. Hee, Xiaohua, master's wife's spirit wine, you can't drink more than 3 cups for the first time, or else it will be detrimental to your mind. Xianxia wasn't angry, and only reminded Xiaohua. Then disciple will drink 3 cups today. As Xiaohua spoke, he picked up the wine cup in front of Xianxia, filled his own cup to the brim, and brought it in front of Xianxia. He said, however, this disciple's alcohol tolerance isn't high enough. Let eldest senior brother drink this cup on my behalf. Junior brother. Xianxia didn't expect this at all. He quickly got up and waved his hand. This is a gift from Master. Eat it. Eldest senior brother, ever since I came to the Myriad Thunder Valley, Master has been very busy. Only eldest senior brother has been guiding me in my cultivation. I am a loose cultivator, so there are very few people guiding me in my cultivation. Today, I was able to reach the 12th layer of Qi refining all thanks to senior martial brother's guidance. If I don't drink a toast to senior martial brother, I'll feel bad. If he felt apologetic, wouldn't there be a knot in his heart? If eldest senior brother doesn't drink this cup of wine, I won't be able to get rid of the knot in my heart. My future cultivation will be a problem. This. Xiangyang's face turned dark red. He looked at Xiao Yan's helpless face. He waved his hand and said, It's your junior brother's kind intentions. You should drink it. His cultivation. You've really worked hard. Yes, disciple doesn't dare to claim credit. Xiangyang's eyes were filled with tears as he received the wine cup. Xiaohua said in a low voice, I've used this wine cup before. Eldest senior martial brother, please don't dislike it. Hee. Xiangyang had a smile on his face as he looked at Xiaohua. Then, he raised his head and drank the spirit wine. Xiaohua picked up the wine pot and walked in front of Xianxia. He said with a smile, Junior brother will ask senior martial sister to drink this 3rd cup. Junior martial sister's care for me is something that I can't express with words. Xianxia stood up and received the wine cup. She didn't panic in the slightest. She seemed to know that Xiaohua would do this. She smiled and said, It's Xiangyang's good fortune to have a junior martial brother like you. Although junior martial brother's current cultivation is still too low, his future is limitless. I can't say much about the Myriad Thunder Valley, but I and your eldest senior martial brother will need your care in the future. She drank the spiritual wine in one gulp. Xiaohua smiled and said, Don't worry, senior martial sister. I don't dare to promise senior martial sister and eldest senior martial brother, but as for Xianxia, I promise you. Xianxia naturally heard Xiangyang's arrogant words and knew who Xianxia was. Her face immediately turned red. Zhua Minghui laughed and scolded, You child, you're really naughty. Yes, Xiangyang, Qinglian, Xiaohua was right. I've been busy with the sex affairs, and you've also worked hard on the Myriad Thunder Valley. Master will also give you a toast. Helplessly, he suddenly said, Master. Xiangyang was shocked and felt extremely uncomfortable. Helplessly, he waved his hand. 2 lines of wine flew out from the wine pot in Xiaohua's hand and landed in the 2's wine cups. Only then did Xiangyang choke and said, Disciple is unworthy and has shamed Master. Don't talk nonsense. Just drink when I tell you to. Helplessly, he shouted and interrupted Xiangyang's words. Only then did Xiangyang feel the spirit wine pouring into his stomach and said, Thank you, Master. Beside him, Xianxinlian's face was still red. She drank the spirit wine unhurriedly and said, Thank you, Master, for the spirit wine. Receiving Helplessly's praise, Xiangyang was very excited. Everyone talked for a while. Xiangyang gathered his courage and said in a low voice, Actually, youngest junior martial brother's talent is outstanding. He's a genius cultivator, but he was a loose cultivator before and practiced 3 kinds of cultivation methods. Shut up. Helplessly was unhappy and scolded. Husband. Zhua Minghui was also unhappy and said in a low voice, Xiangyang is right. You have placed too much hope on Xiaohua. I'm afraid the child will have too much burden. Xiangyang is also thinking for Xiao Hua. Helplessly, he didn't dare to glare at Zhuo Minghui and could only glare at Xiangyang. Xiao Hua also understood Xiangyang's meaning and said with a smile, "Thank you for your kindness, eldest senior martial brother. Disciple also knows master's thoughts. However, disciple will do his best to build his foundation. After all, this is related to disciple's future, so disciple won't be careless. Of course, if there are any mistakes, master should be able to understand." "Nonsense," helplessly said angrily. "How can there be any mistakes? You have a concealed fire physique, which is very fierce. Building your foundation's bottleneck is nothing difficult." Okay, husband, don't talk about building your foundation anymore. Xiao Hua has just reached the early stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. No matter what, there's still 4 to 5 years until he builds his foundation. During this time, let Xiangyang give him more pointers. If you have time, you should also go and take a look. With Xiangyang and your help, Xiao Hua probably won't repeat the same mistakes. Okay, helplessly he muttered. Zhuo Minghui was displeased. She clapped her hands again and took out a red net-shaped magic tool. She handed it to Xiao Hua and said with a smile, "Master's wife wanted to give you a meeting gift a few years ago, but who knew that there wasn't anything suitable? Today, you've entered the 12th layer of the aura refining realm and also have your own divine sense. This magic tool is just right for you." Xiao Hua was overjoyed. He stepped forward and received it. After thanking Zhuo Minghui, he picked up the magic tool and carefully examined it. He saw that this magic tool was made up of thin crimson silk threads connected together. The place where each silk thread interweaved was decorated with tiny top-grade spirit stones. On top of the silk threads, there were faint flashes of runes. When the runes slightly flashed, the top-grade spirit stones also flashed. "Master's wife, what's the name of this magic tool?" Xiao Hua looked at the magic tool. He didn't know whether he liked this magic tool or liked the fact that there were so many top-grade spirit stones on the magic tool. He was smiling so widely that he couldn't close his mouth. Hee, I'll let you know. My Imperial Thunder Sect has a famous magic tool called By Fong Roaring Sky Cover. Zhuo Minghui said with a smile. "Ah, master's wife. Isn't this too precious?" Xiao Hua was shocked when he heard this. You actually want that By Fong Roaring Sky Cover?" Helplessly said unhappily. "That By Fong Roaring Sky Cover doesn't like you." Hee, Xiao Hua smiled and didn't say anything else. "You silly child, this isn't some magic tool. It's a fake that the sex weapon refiner imitated. It can be considered a magic tool." Zhuo Minghui glared at helplessly and said, "That By Fong Roaring Sky Cover is woven from the essence of leaf fire. There's a leaf fire formation within it." Leaf fire formation? Xiao Hua suddenly thought of the formation in his Eastern Ridge medicinal garden. When the Bai Fong Roaring Sky Cover is activated, it can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from its surroundings and transform it into leaf fire. If one is enveloped by the Bai Fong Roaring Sky Cover and doesn't have a magic tool that can restrain leaf fire, then there's absolutely no way for them to escape. This magic tool is refined from the silk of the Southern Light Fire silkworm. Although there's a formation on the silk, it's simple and far inferior to the leaf fire formation. Moreover, although the silk of the Southern Light Fire silkworm is precious, it can't absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from its surroundings after all. It can only add top-grade fire attribute spirit stones on top of this silk. Zhuo Minghui explained. As for the name, when this magic tool is activated, several fire crows will be born within it. There's no harm in calling it Spirit Crow Fire Net. How about it? Haha, many thanks for the name, master's wife. Xiao Hua very happily thanked her. However, this Spirit Crow Fire Net has a shortcoming. Zhuo Minghui smiled and waved her hand. This magic tool relies entirely on top-grade fire attribute spirit stones. If one is missing, there'll be a flaw in the formation. If too many are missing, it'll be completely useless. You'll have to prepare more fire attribute spirit stones in the future. When Xiao Hua heard this, he curled his lips and said, "Master's wife, you're making things difficult for me. Where can I get top-grade fire attribute spirit stones?" Junior martial brother doesn't need to worry. I still have a few pieces. I'll have your senior martial sister take them for you. Xianxia hurriedly said. Hee, it won't be too late to take them later. As she spoke, Zhuo Minghui took out a jade slip and handed it to Xiaohua, saying, this is the method to refine this magic tool. There are also some methods to refine other magic tools. Master's wife remembers that you once asked your master for this, right? When? Xiaohua stared blankly. He hurriedly took it and said with a smile, many thanks, master's wife. Many thanks, master. That's right. I have a question I want to ask master. And ask away. Seeing this, Xiaohua didn't ask any more and said with a smile. I don't have the ability to teach you. Master. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He promptly bowed and said, disciple. Disciple was only asking. Why did I think so much? Husband, Zhuo Minghui promptly got up and pulled him back. She helplessly said, Xiaohua used to be a loose cultivator, so he used his own brain a lot. Now that he's asking, it's to show your prestige as a master. Otherwise, why would he have a master like you? Why don't you tell Xiaohua properly? Why are you so angry? That's right, master. You always say that disciple is stupid. Xiangyang also hurriedly tried to persuade her. Shut up, I'm not talking about you. Helplessly angrily said. If only he had half of your abilities. He's only at the 11th layer of qi refining. What lightning evasion technique? What divine sense control technique? What divine accumulation talisman? Don't think that master doesn't know anything. What's the use of those things if you want them early? Don't you still have to wait until you reach the 12th layer of qi refining before you can use them? Yes, master, please calm down. Disciple knows his mistake. Xiaohua promptly said. Humph, helplessly swinging her sleeves, she turned around and entered the inner mansion. Master. Xiaohua very anxiously shouted. It's fine, Xiaohua. Zhuo Minghui forced a smile and said, your master was also afraid that you would take a detour, so she warned you. These are all my cultivation experiences. You must listen to them and remember them in your heart. Sometimes taking risks is admittedly rewarding, but more often than not, it's all for naught. If there's a smooth path to the heavens, why don't you obediently walk on it? The opportunity to build your foundation is also fleeting. If you don't start building your foundation when there are signs of building your foundation, the chances of building your foundation in the future will be much less. Moreover, there are signs of building your foundation, which means that your meridians have reached the limit of refining true qi. If you don't build your foundation, your magic power won't increase. Even if your meridians have the medicinal power of the clear flower pill, I'm afraid that your meridians won't be able to refine them anymore. You'll only end up with your meridians exploding. Disciple knows. Eldest senior brother has already said these things. Xiaohua nodded. And it's good that you know. Don't think too much. Go out with your eldest senior brother first and let him guide you in your future cultivation. You can't be too smart for your own good. Zhuo Minghui said, then thought of something and said, is the restriction on the medicinal power of the clear flower pill good? Before you build your foundation, you still have to let your master use it again. Don't let anything go wrong. Master's wife, last time master checked it, he said that if nothing unexpected happens, the restriction can be used for 10 years. Disciple also didn't notice any abnormalities. Xiaohua respectfully replied. All right, you can go first. Zhuo Minghui sighed and also entered the inner residence. Xiaohua could only follow Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian back to their abode. Xiangyang saw that Xiaohua was somewhat sad and didn't say anything more. He only let Xiaohua go back and rest for a few more days. After a period of time, he'll come back to listen to the lecture. Xiaohua came out of Myriad Thunder Valley. His heart was somewhat chaotic. After flying for a while, he found that the direction was wrong. It seemed to be heading towards Heavenly Thunder Palace. Just as he was about to turn around, he thought to himself, today I've angered Master. I'm afraid I'll have to apologize to him. Master has always been thinking about the Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion technique. It's just that he has some misgivings about his face and didn't ask me too much. I've always been busy cultivating. Isn't this a good opportunity? Thinking, Xiao Hua sped up and flew towards Heavenly Thunder Palace's Thunder Immortal Peak. Heavenly Thunder Palace's technique imparting pavilion was in Rumbling Thunder Hall. It was different from Shocking Thunder Palace's technique imparting pavilion. It was a whole ball of lightning. In the middle of the lightning, an 8-story pavilion was faintly visible. After Xiao Hua threw in the sect master's command token and his own identity token, a light path flickered with lightning. At the end of the path was a sky full of stars. Those jade slips and ancient books were like stars decorating the sky. As it turned out, this Heavenly Thunder Palace's technique imparting pavilion was actually built on top of an illusion array. Chi refining, foundation building and other cultivation levels were divided into different starry skies. Each level was higher than the previous, and each level was blocked by a restriction. Xiao Hua didn't stay in the Chi refining layer for long. He directly used the sect master's command token to go to the starry skies where the foundation building cultivation method was located. Then, he very easily found the 9th level of the lightning evasion technique. However, he was a little worried. He had no problem reading the jade slips with his divine sense, but if he had to make a copy of the jade slips, he couldn't do it. Not to mention whether the copy of the jade slips could be read or not, he didn't even dare to guarantee that the copy would be complete. Without any other choice, Xiao Hua pointed at the sect master's command token. A bright yellow brilliance flew out. In a moment, a huge human figure that filled the starry skies appeared in front of Xiao Hua. Disciple Xiao Hua has something to trouble Senior with. Seeing this, Xiao Hua hurriedly bowed and said, "What is a 12th level Qi refining disciple doing here?" That cultivator was obviously stunned. Xiao Hua also didn't explain much and handed over the sect master's command token. That cultivator looked at it and nodded, saying, Xiao Hua, what did you call me for?" Disciple wants to make a copy of this lightning evasion technique and bring it out of the technique imparting pavilion. This is also explained in the sect master's command token, right? Xiao Hua said with a smile. Wait a moment. That cultivator said as he grabbed a ball of starlight from the starry skies. Sweeping it with his divine sense, he nodded and said, "Yes, the sect master has instructed that you can make a copy of the lightning evasion technique. Disciple has just reached the 12th level of Qi refining, and my divine sense is newly formed. I'm afraid the copy won't be good. Senior, please help me," Xiao Hua said respectfully. That cultivator slightly wrinkled his brows and said in a low voice, "The sect master's command token doesn't allow my technique imparting pavilion to make a copy of the lightning evasion technique. Naturally, you have no right to order this old man." "So it's like that." Xiao Hua was somewhat disappointed. Just as he was about to speak, that cultivator said again, "However, this old man can extend a hand to help you. It's just a small matter." "Many thanks, Senior." Xiao Hua was overjoyed, but that cultivator waved his hand again. "Don't worry, this old man will help you copy the lightning evasion technique, but you also have to help this old man." "No problem, if Senior has a favor, how could Disciple dare to disobey?" Xiao Hua said with a smile. "Very good." That cultivator smiled and waved his hand. The jade slip of the lightning evasion technique flew into his hand. He waved his hand again and another jade slip flew out of nowhere. That cultivator held the technique in one hand and the jade slip in the other. His powerful divine sense locked onto the technique. Soon after, a ball of green light flew out from the jade slip of the lightning evasion technique and penetrated into the jade slip in his other hand. Immediately after, that cultivator threw the lightning evasion technique. The jade slip turned into a star and fell into the starry sky. The other jade slip also flew in front of Xiao Hua's eyes. "Keep it well," that cultivator said. 10 days later, wait for me here. This old man has something for you to do." 10 days? Xiao Hua put away the jade slip and said with a smile, "Since it's like this, Disciple won't leave. Disciple will stay here and read the ancient records. It won't be too late to leave after helping Senior finish his task in 10 days. "As you wish." That cultivator nodded, then turned into a shadow and disappeared. What does this Senior want me to do? Xiao Hua read the lightning evasion technique while secretly pondering. Chapter 1580. 10 days passed very quickly, and Xiao Hua's lightning evasion technique didn't make much progress. This lightning evasion technique was different from the one Xianxia gave him. Just the first level of the introductory technique was already very different. The Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion technique was very detailed, and the technique was also very hard to pronounce. Many details were even somewhat mysterious. Carefully comprehending it, it was actually like a cultivation technique, far from being as simple as an evasion technique. Moreover, the Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion technique was divided into 9 levels. From the initial hibernating lightning, awakening lightning, and bright lightning to the middle imperial lightning travel, imperial lightning change, and imperial lightning shock to the late lightning traversing 3 realms, lightning surpassing 6 paths, and thunderclap 9th heaven. Each realm's name was very arrogant, and according to the records, the speed of the lightning evasion at each level was more than double. Damn it! I just cultivated this lightning evasion technique to the first level, which is the hibernating lightning realm, and the speed is already so fast. If I cultivate it to thunderclap 9th heaven, then I don't know how many times faster it would be. Wouldn't it be faster than the light evasion mentioned in reversing light? Xiaohua was somewhat dumbfounded. At this time, he also understood why his master was so grateful when he heard Master Heavenly Thunder bestowing him the Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion technique. However, although Xiaohua thought so, in his bones, he really didn't put the lightning evasion and the light evasion on the same level. Thinking about the difficulty of cultivating the light evasion, how could it be compared to the lightning evasion? Just as Xiaohua was pondering, in the starry sky before him, that Foundation Establishment cultivator once again appeared. Follow me. That cultivator saw Xiaohua obediently stay in the Technique Inheritance Pavilion and nodded. Yes. Xiaohua responded and followed that cultivator out of the Technique Inheritance Pavilion. After passing through several palaces, they arrived at a side hall. Xiaohua's sharp eyes had already seen a plaque in the side hall with the 2 words, Diligent Lightning, written on it. Entering the side hall, there was no one else in the hall, only an incense burner in the center of the hall. At this time, the incense burner didn't have any incense or candles, only an oval-shaped burner with crackling lightning. The cultivator led Xiaohua to the front of the incense burner and pointed at it. Throw your identity tablet inside. Xiaohua did as he was told. The token flipped and flew out of the incense burner. When Xiaohua caught it, the cultivator waved his hand and said, "Come with me again." Next to the side hall were some meditation rooms. Xiaohua followed the cultivator into one of the meditation rooms. The cultivator waved his hand and the entire meditation room flashed with brilliance. The door of the meditation room disappeared. Seeing that Xiaohua's expression didn't change, the cultivator frowned. His eyes turned and he waved his hand again. A round mirror appeared in front of Xiaohua, and inside the mirror was the portrait of a cultivator. Did you see it clearly? The cultivator asked. Yes, disciple saw it clearly. Xiaohua glanced at it a few times and couldn't help but ask, May I know what senior wants disciple to do? Hee, I thought you were very shrewd, but in the end, I couldn't help but ask. The cultivator snorted and said, Remember, in a while, you only need to lose to that disciple just now. Lose to that disciple? Xiaohua scratched his head, but he still nodded. Disciple understands. In a while, the competition will be in an illusion. You must have participated in the disciple selection, right? It's similar to that illusion. No matter what method you use, as long as you lose to that disciple, you've completed the mission. You and I don't owe each other anything. Seeing Xiaohua nod, the cultivator said again, Then you can cultivate here. In a while, a disciple will come and call you. You can go with them. Soon after, the cultivator turned and left. What about the others? Xiaohua saw that the cultivator waved his hand and the brilliance flashed again. He couldn't help but ask again. The others? Hee, do as you see fit. The cultivator laughed mischievously, pushed open the door and walked out. Seeing that the cultivator didn't speak clearly, Xiaohua also knew that he didn't want to say more. However, since it was in an illusion, even if he lost, there wouldn't be any danger to his life. If he lost, he lost. Xiaohua didn't care. Sure enough, in the time it took to eat a meal, a boy around the 7th layer of qi refining came in. He looked at Xiaohua and said with a smile, Senior Martial Brother, are you participating in the selection? Yes, please lead the way, Junior Martial Brother. Xiaohua stood up and said, Please follow this disciple. The boy smiled and led the way. After leaving the quiet room, the censer in the center of the side hall was already gone. Where the censer used to be was now a square ring of light. The ring of light was the size of a fist, and there were countless runes flashing inside. There were also traces of lightning around the runes, and the inside of the ring of light was a vast expanse of white that even divine sense couldn't penetrate. Senior Martial Brother. This selection will be held in an illusion. Presumably, Senior Martial Brother already knows the specific rules. Senior Martial Brother, please take out your identity tablet and step into this illusion formation. Senior Martial Brother's opponent has already been lined up when Senior Martial Brother sent your identity tablet into the illusion formation. The boy pointed with his finger and said with a smile, I wish Senior Martial Brother a victory. Hee hee, I'll take advantage of Junior Martial Brother's auspicious words. Xianxia cupped his hands. He originally wanted to ask, what kind of selection is this? But he was afraid of spoiling the good thing of that cultivator just now, so he could only be a silent gourd. Xianxia held his identity tablet and stepped into the ring of light. He only felt his vision blur, just like when he entered the illusion formation during the selection. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in a desert. Although he knew this was only an illusion formation, the scorching sun, the dry hurricane, and the fine white sand under his feet were really real. Xianxia had never been to a desert before. Seeing this, he unconsciously crouched down and grabbed a handful of sand. The sand was very smooth. As Xianxia slowly let go of his hand, the sand floated in the air and danced with the wind. Damn it, this is really interesting. I don't know if there's a desert in Dawn Rain Continent. I'll find some time to go gain experience. Xianxia used his foot to step on the sand, leaving a footprint on the desert. But immediately, it was covered by some quicksand at the side. Just when Xianxia wanted to play a bit more, an aged voice resounded through heaven and earth. Disciples, there are 320 disciples participating in this selection. In every round, there will be 2 disciples facing each other. The disciple who wins in a battle of magical powers will get 3 points. The disciple who loses won't get any points. If it's a draw, each disciple will get 1 point. In the end, the disciple ranked in the top 20 will win. Okay, after 10 breaths of time, the battle of magical powers will begin. Next to each disciple will appear an opponent for this round of magical powers. Hee hee, when Xianxia heard this, he was happy for no reason. To tell the truth, after he entered the Imperial Thunder Sect these past few years, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, leaping to the 12th level of Qi refinement in one go. This was something he didn't even dare to think about when he was a loose cultivator. Moreover, he now had divine sense and several magic tools that he could use. If he didn't find someone to practice with in this illusion formation, it would really be a pity. In any case, as long as I lose to that disciple, and I don't have to win too much, wouldn't that be enough? Xianxia already had a plan in mind. Soon after, Xianxia waved his hand and the black iron needle appeared in his hand. Suddenly, several dozen feet in front of Xianxia, the sunlight slightly distorted, and a short and fat cultivator gradually appeared in midair. Hee hee, Xianxia was secretly happy in his heart. He immediately sent the black iron needle under his feet, slowly flying through the sand towards that cultivator. The sandstorm in this desert was so strong, Xianxia didn't believe that the cultivator could use his divine sense to find the black iron needle among the thousands of grains of sand. That short and fat cultivator gradually revealed his figure. His body was surrounded by a faint brilliance. Xianxia knew that this brilliance should be protecting this cultivator, to prevent him from being killed as soon as he appeared. That cultivator originally had his back facing Xianxia, but when he turned around and saw Xianxia, his face flashed with a trace of vigilance. When the brilliance on that cultivator's body disappeared, the cultivator's cultivation was revealed. Xianxia couldn't help but stare blankly. Good, this guy is actually at the peak of the 12th level of Qi refinement. At the same time, that cultivator naturally also saw Xiaohua's cultivation, and a trace of a relaxed smile appeared on his face. Junior Martial Brother. I am Chen Yi from Heavenly Thunder Palace. How should I address you? That cultivator cupped his hands and said with a smile. Disciple Xiaohua from Heavenly Thunder Palace greets Senior Martial Brother. Xiaohua also returned the greeting. Junior Martial Brother Xiao has some guts, daring to register with such a cultivation level. Qianyi waved his hand and took out several yellow talismans. He urged his magic power and placed them on his body, but his mouth didn't stop talking. However, it's no wonder. This is an illusion formation. It won't harm your life. It's also not bad to come and see the world. Xiaohua originally wanted to ask about this Qianyi's selection, but after hearing his words, a trace of arrogance rose in his heart. This young master isn't stingy with foundation establishment cultivators. Why would I care about you, a 12th level Qi refinement cultivator? Why would this young master ask you these things? I'll just kill all of you. Finished thinking, Xiaohua urged his magic power, and his whole body floated into the air, flying towards the distance. Haha, junior martial brother Xiao. This elder brother knew you would be like this. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. This elder brother will just kill you. I won't harm your life. Qianyi laughed loudly, and clapped his hand again. A rhombus-shaped magic tool appeared in his hand. At the same time, he also urged his flying technique, chasing after Xiaohua while throwing the magic tool in the air. Once the rhombus-shaped magic tool left his hand, it suddenly expanded, turning into a short spear that was 3 feet long. Surrounded by electric sparks, it pierced towards Xiaohua's back. Seeing that Xiaohua's flying speed wasn't as fast as the short spear, the tip of the short spear extended once again, and was about to pierce Xiaohua's back in a few breaths' time. Qianyi's face unconsciously revealed a trace of a smile. I just entered the selection and I already met an extremely weak person. I don't know what this guy is thinking. What is he doing here? Is he just here to give away points to I? Go. Qianyi lightly reprimanded, guiding the short spear with his divine sense, and urging his magic power again. The tip of the short spear faintly flashed, seemingly piercing through Xiaohua's defensive restriction. But at this moment, Xiaohua's body suddenly flashed, and he actually dodged the short spear with extreme agility. Chapter 1581. How is this possible? Qianyi couldn't have imagined that Xiaohua would be able to dodge the short spear without using any magic. Because of this, Qianyi didn't have enough time to activate the short spear. The short spear missed. Although Qianyi was shocked, he didn't think much of it. His opponent was just a disciple who had just entered the 12th level of Qi refining. The difference between him and Qianyi wasn't small at all. Unfortunately, this sort of contempt had just arisen in his heart, and he hadn't even had the chance to drive the short spear to chase after Xiaohua when Xiaohua actually dodged the short spear at the same time. Xiaohua's figure suddenly turned around and actually flew towards him. Luring the snake out of its hole? Qianyi was shocked again, but then he sneered. He slapped his hand and was about to take out the flying sword talisman from his storage pouch. However, a shocking scene occurred. As soon as he took out the flying sword talisman, Xiaohua's 2 small eyes suddenly appeared in front of him. Under those slender eyebrows, there was also a pair of phoenix eyes that were full of mockery. Oh no, how can he be so fast? Qianyi cursed inwardly. He activated his magic and was about to release the flying sword talisman. Unexpectedly, Xiaohua shot in front of Qianyi like an arrow. He didn't attack, but instead flew towards Qianyi's head. All that was left was a large stack of yellow talismans. This bastard. What is he doing? Qianyi's attention naturally followed Xiaohua as he flew up. Xiaohua's fireball talismans were completely ignored. Rumble. A series of fireballs exploded around Qianyi. The scorching heat wave blew Qianyi's entire body into the air. Although Qianyi's face was filled with shock and his body flashed with brilliance, it was clear that there was no fear in his eyes. Although Xiaohua used the best quality fireball talismans he made himself, this was still an illusion. The surrounding spiritual energy was different from the outside world. The fireball talisman's explosive power was limited. Moreover, Qianyi was already in the late 12th level of Qi refining. Although he hadn't entered the realm of perfection, but his divine sense had already reached a certain level. His magic could also form a defense around his body. The fireball talisman couldn't do any real damage to him. Oh my, it really is a 12th layer Qi refining cultivator. Xiaohua was also slightly surprised. He immediately waved his hand and scattered even more fireball talismans around the dried leaves. This time, Xiaohua didn't scatter them blindly. Instead, he used his Buddhist consciousness to drive them. The chaotic fireballs were still orderly. So this is your technique? Qianyi laughed loudly. Just as Xiao Hua threw out the fireball talisman, the short spear also flew up. Seeing Xiao Hua's fireballs coming down, the tip of the short spear trembled. Like a skewer of Tonghulu, it pierced through several bursting fireball talismans all at once. Ha ha ha! Qianyi laughed out loud. The short spear shook again and was about to pierce through another fireball talisman. However, just as the short spear pierced through, the remaining fireball talismans swam away like fish, one by one flying towards Qianyi's legs and exploding. Feeling the intense vibrations in his legs, Qianyi's figure staggered slightly. This bastard also knows how to attack together? But if he thinks he can take down a 12th layer Qi refining cultivator with only fireball talismans, I'm afraid he's delusional. Qianyi sneered in his heart, but then he was shocked. Oh my! Could it be that this bastard also has a magic weapon? But just as Qianyi's suspicions were rising, Xiao Hua also took out a triangular magic weapon not far in front of him. Oh, so there it is! Qianyi's heart calmed down. At this moment, several fireball talismans exploded at the same time, causing the defense around his body to be somewhat scattered. Qianyi channeled his magic power, and just as he was about to deplete the magic power of his defense, a huge force suddenly appeared at the place where the fireball talismans exploded. That force was extremely strong and extremely sharp. The already weakened defense brilliance could not stop the force from piercing through. Oh no! Qianyi only had time to lower his head. He didn't even have time to see what was piercing through his legs before his vision turned black. His entire body suddenly disappeared. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in the Thunder Temple. Damn it! Qianyi was about to stomp his feet. He felt that he hadn't even used any divine abilities. How could he be eliminated just like that? Xiao Hua only flew a bit faster and had a few more top-grade fireball talismans. Qianyi didn't even see the magic weapon in Xiao Hua's hands clearly. Moreover, looking around him, those who were eliminated before him were all mid-12th layer Qi refining cultivators. How could there be a late-stage cultivator like him? Suddenly, Qianyi's back was drenched in cold sweat. His teeth were about to chatter. Oh my god, could it be? This bastard is using two magic weapons? He has one in his hands, and the other is attacking me? Can he really use his divine will to drive two magic weapons? That's something that even early Foundation establishment cultivators can't do. If we met elsewhere, even if my cultivation level was much higher than his, I still wouldn't be his match, right? The problem is, he just reached the 12th layer Qi refining. His divine will should have just been activated. How could he drive two magic weapons? Yes, the one in his hands must be a cover. The one under me is the real magic weapon. Alas, it's not an injustice to be defeated by such a scheming opponent. Qianyi didn't expect that it wasn't just the black iron needle and the black dust. Even those scattered fireball talismans were controlled by Xiao Hua's Buddhist consciousness. This was much more difficult than controlling two magic weapons. Inside the illusion, Xiao Hua didn't feel any joy after eliminating Qianyi. With a wave of his hand, the black iron needle returned to his hand. Holding the two magic weapons in his hands, he stared fixedly at the place where Qianyi just disappeared. His brows were tightly knitted. After a while, he shook his head slightly and said to himself, Qianyi is only a 12th layer Qi refining cultivator, but his defense is already so strong. My top-grade fireball talismans can certainly make his expression change, but they can't make him panic. Yes, even if he panics and scatters these fireball talismans, they won't be able to produce the expected effect of opening the defense of my black iron needle. I need to think more. My future opponents won't be just 7th or 8th layer Qi refining cultivators. With this thought, Xiao Hua calmly stood in midair, allowing the sandstorm to cover him. Perhaps I still need to rely on the black dust? While thinking, Xiao Hua formed a hand seal. Magic power spread out, and an earthy yellow brilliance flew out from the black dust. Inside the brilliance were tiny particles. Wherever the brilliance went, the sandstorm above the desert was instantly swept away, revealing a clean sky. Young master got it. Looking at the place where the earthy yellow brilliance had just passed and the sandstorm covered the horizon, Xiao Hua's heart suddenly jumped. He thought of something. At this moment, the world suddenly became quiet. The sandstorm in the desert was no longer. A voice resounded through the world, Disciples, the first round is over. The disciples who won have already recorded their points. Disciples who have been eliminated, please enter the illusion array and prepare for the second round of battle. Haha, Xiaohua only realized at this moment. There were more than 200 people, 2 on 2. That was more than 200 battles. Weren't they afraid of losing their lives? Where else could they find this kind of opportunity to practice? Just as he was laughing loudly, a burst of brilliance flashed around Xiaohua's body. He didn't know which part of the illusion array he was assigned to, but not far from him, Qianye's figure appeared again. Xiaohua's vision darkened. He calmly waited for the light to come again. Unfortunately, after a while, Xiaohua's surroundings didn't light up. It was still pitch black. This is... Xiaohua was slightly stunned. Suddenly, a kind of fear came from the top of his head. Xiaohua didn't have time to think. He wanted to dodge, but it was still too late. An incomparably huge pressure came from the top of his head, firmly pressing down on his shoulders and back. This kind of pressure wasn't just pure strength, but more of it was the solidification of magic power. Xiaohua naturally didn't admit defeat. His 2 arms moved, and he was about to use his divine power. At this moment, a beautiful female cultivator's figure flashed a faint light in front of him. With the help of the light, Xiaohua could clearly see that the female cultivator was also a disciple at the late stage of the 12th stage of qi refining. In the disciple's hand, a flying sword quickly pierced towards his chest. Damn it! Seeing that he couldn't fight back and that defeat was imminent, Xiaohua couldn't help but bitterly smile. Only now did he think of using his divine sense to sweep outside with his Buddhist awareness. Sure enough, this was a pitch-black and boundless sky. Relying solely on the naked eye, he couldn't see anything clearly. Chapter 1582. Seeing a cool oval face, Xiaohua suddenly realized that this female disciple was Shue's senior sister, Sun Shu. At this time, Sun Shu's cultivation was already at the late stage of qi refining. When Xiaohua saw clearly that it was Sun Shu, he smiled and cupped his hands. So it's senior sister Sun Shu. You. Xiaohua, before you entered my Imperial Thunder Sect, were you really a loose cultivator? Sun Shu didn't return the greeting. She stared straight at Xiaohua and asked very directly. Sun Shu's voice wasn't soft. The people nearby had already heard it and unconsciously looked over here. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He knew that Sun Shu was a direct disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. She hadn't experienced the bloody storms of the cultivation world under the Thunderclap Peak. Although her cultivation was high, she was still a bit lacking in worldly wisdom. He could only look left and right and said in a low voice, "My good senior sister, can you speak a bit softer?" Xiaohua's words were very unintentional and did not have much meaning behind them. However, when Sun Shu heard this, her eyes were first stunned and then immediately became angry. However, before her anger could be born, a trace of shyness flashed across her cheeks. However, that bashfulness disappeared in the blink of an eye, and Sun Shu regained her previous cold elegance. At this time, Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "This one was originally a loose cultivator, and did not have the heart to hide it. Shui also knows this. But senior sister can't say it like this in front of everyone, right? You also know that many people are prejudiced against loose cultivators." Hearing Shui's name, Sun Shu's eyes emitted a strange brilliance. Then she nodded out of character. "I was negligent. Junior brother Xiao, please don't blame me." Finished speaking, she cupped her hands and turned to leave. "Hey, senior sister Sun Shu." Seeing Sun Shu leave very abruptly, Xiaohua raised his hand, wanting to call out to her. "Nonsense, what's the use of this selection?" Xiaohua still wanted to get information from Sun Shu's mouth. But Sun Shu turned a deaf ear to Xiaohua's call and still steadily left. "Damn, I didn't offend you, right?" Xiaohua put down his arm and looked around narcissistically. "I just didn't let you call I a loose cultivator and you have such a big temper? No need to say it's compared to Shui. It's just..." Xiaohua thought of Fairy Xianxia again. "Disciples, the third round begins." A voice sounded in the hall. The voice was exactly the same as the voice in the illusion array. Xiaohua hurriedly ran into the ring of light, but just as he took a step, dozens and hundreds of scarlet-red threads flew out from the ring of light, landing on everyone's bodies. Then, the entire ring of light flashed, and everyone disappeared. It was another spacious hall. Xiaohua only felt his vision darken again. This time, he didn't dare to be careless and released his Buddhist sense early on. Unfortunately, at the same time, his eyes brightened and were filled with blue waves. About 100 feet in front of him, there was a female cultivator in azure clothes. She held a horsetail whisk in her hand and was looking at him with a pensive expression. Stage, 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 stage. When Xiaohua saw the other party's cultivation, he already had a plan in his mind. He cupped his hands and said, "Disciple Xiaohua greets senior sister. No need to be so polite. I am Li Xiaoxiao from Mythical Thunder Palace. Since junior brother has come to participate in the selection, you don't need to have any misgivings. I won't be lenient. Please." Li Xiaoxiao swung her horsetail whisk and a water tank-sized stream of water followed the movement of her horsetail whisk towards Xiaohua. Ha! This was the first time Xiaohua had seen such a method of using a magic tool. His eyes lit up and he waved his hand to take out the white dust as well. He activated his magic power and a yellow light rushed out from the white dust to meet the water flow. Rumble! There was a loud sound. The millions of particles in the light trembled and blocked the stream of water. Hee, junior brother Xiao really has some skills. As Li Xiaoxiao praised, she casually waved her horsetail whisk. That stream of water was immediately divided into 10 streams. Like water dragons, they circled in front of the earthen yellow brilliance, bypassed the obstruction of the horsetail whisk, and attacked Xiaohua from all directions. Ouch! Xiaohua immediately became flustered. He formed seals with his hands, and the speck of dust's brilliance blocked left and right. It ignored the front and missed the right side. Pang! That stream of water hit different parts of Xiaohua's body. The power of the stream of water was extremely great, causing him to sway from side to side. The defensive yellow talisman's brilliance on his body also flickered again and again, almost extinguishing. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He activated his magic power and his body immediately floated up to the sky. With a wave of his hand, he took out a defensive yellow talisman and threw it out. Then, he activated 6 fireball talismans with his Buddhist sense and attacked Li Xiaoxiao from 6 different directions. Strange, this fireball talisman. Why did it miss? Seeing that the fireball talisman didn't hit her directly, Li Xiaoxiao was slightly stunned. However, the horsetail whisk in her hand didn't slow down at all. She swung her horsetail whisk and another stream of water was sent into the air. It also divided into 10 streams and attacked Xiaohua's body. Rumble! There were 6 loud sounds. 6 fireball talismans exploded around Li Xiaoxiao's body. Haha, junior brother Xiao, you still need to practice your divine sense more. As soon as Li Xiaoxiao said this, she immediately felt the scorching heat waves produced by the fireball talisman rushing towards her from all directions. That heat wave actually sealed off her surroundings, leaving her with no room to escape. Ouch! Li Xiaoxiao was shocked. She glanced at Xiaohua with some astonishment. She didn't think that Xiaohua's 6 fireball talismans missed. That's right. Xiaohua's 6 fireball talismans were in roughly the same position as the 6 formation plates of the heavenly fire formation. It was also a trick that Xiaohua had just thought of. Now that he tried it a little, it actually worked. Under the huge wave of air, Li Xiaoxiao's protective brilliance was gradually annihilated. At this moment, in the dark green waves, a thin black light leisurely rose with the wind and waves. It was Xiaohua's black iron needle. Although Li Xiaoxiao was in a perilous situation, she didn't panic. Just as her defenses were about to be breached under the pressure of the airwave, she flicked her horsetail whisk and a light blue water ripple appeared around her. The moment the water ripple appeared, the temperature around Li Xiaoxiao immediately dropped, washing away the heat wave from the fireball talisman without a trace. Alas, water restrains fire. My fireball talisman is precisely restrained by her magic. Seeing the water ripple appear, Xiaohua knew that the black iron needle couldn't succeed. His Buddhist sense spread out and the black iron needle was drawn into the water ripple again. At this time, Xiaohua had the white dust, illumination, and spirit crow fire net in his hands. Unfortunately, apart from the white dust, he didn't refine the spirit crow fire net and illumination seemed to only be able to look and not attack. Xiao Hua was somewhat at his wit's end. I can't take out the devil's spear tip, right? Xiao Hua secretly muttered. How about I rely on flying techniques to get rid of this Li Xiaoxiao? Just as he was thinking, he saw Li Xiaoxiao's horsetail whisk move again. This time, however, it was different. Unexpectedly, more than 10 thin streams of water separated from the water ripple, and the color was even deeper blue. It's not over yet. Xiao Hua urged the white dust. The earthen yellow brilliance didn't attack. It flew to the top of Xiao Hua's head and fell in all directions, wrapping Xiao Hua in it. Haha, seeing Xiao Hua's defense, Li Xiaoxiao laughed tenderly. More than 10 streams of water hit the light curtain. Ka ka ka, a series of crisp sounds rang out and the light curtain actually began to freeze. Not good. Xiao Hua thought to himself. With a wave of his hand, he was about to withdraw the brilliance and fly far away. However, under Li Xiaoxiao's control, the water streams actually formed a sparkling ice ball around Xiao Hua, completely sealing Xiao Hua inside. Heh, you want to trap me just like this? Xiao Hua sneered. With a wave of his hand, a wisp of purple flame quietly appeared. However, that flame had only just appeared before it was extinguished. Xiao Hua smiled and said, It's just a battle of magical powers, nothing grand. Is there a need for this young master to reveal everything? Then Xiao Hua's voice was heard. Senior sister, I beg for mercy. Senior sister is really resourceful. I admire you. Haha, it's nothing. You're just at the early stage of Qi refinement level 12 and can already fight with I for so long. If you cultivate for a few more years, you won't necessarily be any worse than I when you reach the late stage of Qi refinement level 12. Seeing this, Li Xiaoxiao swung her horsetail whisk and said, Actually, you're still at a disadvantage in terms of magic tools. Wait until your cultivation increases in the future. You can ask your master to find a better magic tool. Thank you for the reminder, senior sister. Good, take out your token. Li Xiaoxiao said, Use your magic power and you'll be teleported to Thunder Temple. Yes, this disciple understands. Xiao Hua took out his token. As soon as his magic power flowed, he was immediately teleported out. After that, Xiao Hua didn't know how long he fought. Once again, he changed several hundred illusions. Each illusion was different. There were mountain ranges, caves, forests, slopes, and even the starry sky, the bottom of the sea and magma. His opponents also changed several hundred times. There were men and women, handsome and ugly, but they were all in the 12th layer of Qi refinement level. Moreover, more than half of them were in the 12th layer of Qi refinement. These people had different magic tools and were good at different techniques. Fighting with these opponents really benefited Xiao Hua a lot. Not only did his fighting experience soar, but his control over magic tools also improved a lot. Of course, in these several hundred battles, Xiao Hua didn't completely reveal his true abilities. When facing opponents below the late 12th layer of Qi refinement, Xiao Hua used magic tools to fight. Generally, he was able to smoothly kill them. When facing opponents in the late 12th layer of Qi refinement, if the opponent's magic tool was powerful, Xiao Hua would use the flying technique to fight with them. His flying technique was so powerful that even Foundation establishment cultivators couldn't catch up to him. He also didn't need to use all of his magic power. He only needed to make the opponent's magic tool unable to catch up to him. However, when it was the end of the selection, not only did Xiao Hua encounter Sun Shu, he also encountered Wang Yunxiao, Yuan Bo, and Min Gu, who were in the late 12th layer of Qi refinement. However, as it happened, he didn't encounter the disciple that cultivator spoke of. Of course, when Xiao Hua saw Sun Shu, he didn't say anything. He directly took out his token and used his magic power to teleport out. Since the other party didn't give him any face, why should he ask? Xiao Hua didn't know. Sun Shu stared at his back for a long time with an indescribable expression on his face. Chapter 1583. As for Yuan Bo and the others, although they were very polite on the surface, they were merciless in their attacks. When Xiao Hua heard that this selection was about selecting disciples to go out and train, he immediately took out the token and took the initiative to teleport. Nonsense! It's not like I've reached the late stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. What's the point of going out to train? He might as well hide in the formation in the cave and focus on improving his cultivation. Fortunately, not long after encountering Wang Yunxiao and the others, Xiao Hua killed several mid-12th layer qi refining disciples and finally encountered the disciple that the Foundation establishment cultivator mentioned. But when he saw the slightly short disciple in front of him, Xiao Hua was stunned. It wasn't that this disciple was too handsome, nor was it that this disciple was too ugly. Rather, it was that this disciple's cultivation was actually at the early stage of the 12th level of qi refining. Of course, it was the initial stage that was close to the middle stage, not the initial stage that Xiao Hua had just stepped into. Damn it, are you kidding me? Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. As it turned out, that Foundation establishment cultivator wanted him to be this disciple's supporting character. Wasn't it just going out to train? Was there a need to make such a big move? With this kind of cultivation, even if he went out, wouldn't he be a wandering soul in the hands of others? He might as well cultivate more in the Imperial Thunder Sect. Thinking about it, Xiao Hua no longer hesitated. He activated his magic power and teleported himself out. Behind him, the disciple didn't have any shock on his face. It was as if everything was normal. After a few more rounds of selection, the disciples of Diligent Thunder Hall said that the results of the selection would be out in a few days. When the time came, the results would be sent to their respective masters and they were dismissed. However, Xiao Hua didn't have any intention of going out to gain experience, so he naturally didn't care about the results. As soon as the disciple of Diligent Thunder Hall finished speaking, while the other disciples were still discussing, he took the lead and left Diligent Thunder Hall. Behind him, Sun Shu chased after him for a while, but was stopped by the other senior sisters. Only then did he stop with some hesitation. Xiao Hua left the Thunder Immortal Peak and flew directly to the 10,000 Thunder Valley without saying a word. On the way, Xiao Hua calculated with his fingers and couldn't help but sigh. Damn it, it took me a month just to get someone to copy the lightning evasion technique. It's really not worth it. With this 1 month's worth of cultivation, I'm afraid my cultivation will improve a lot, right? However, on second thought, Xiao Hua rejoiced again. In this selection round, he had truly fought with 200 disciples for over 200 rounds. This wasn't something that could be cultivated through meditation. Hee. I wonder if Master is still angry? It had already been a month. However, Master is busy with work. I'm afraid he's in the Myriad Thunder Valley again, right? Xiao Hua thought as he looked at the Immortal's cave in front of him. During this month, Xiao Hua had comprehended quite a bit of the lightning escape technique in the illusory array. The first level of the lightning escape technique, hibernating lightning, could be considered to have made some progress. Sure enough, there was no one in Helpless Immortal's cave. Helpless and Zhua Minghui were both absent. Only Xianxia came out of the Immortal's cave when he heard Xiao Hua's arrival. Hee, eldest senior brother. Is Master still angry? Xiao Hua asked as soon as they met. I don't know either. After Master left last time, he never came back. Master's wife also went out a few days ago. Xianxia shook his head and said, Little junior brother, why are you here today? Hee, look. Xiao Hua took out the jade slip and handed it over. His face was immensely proud of himself, looking like he was showing off. Xianxia was puzzled. He used his divine sense to take a look. His face was filled with shock as he hurriedly said, This is the most complete lightning escape technique of my Imperial Thunder Sect's Heavenly Thunder Palace. How did you get it? Eldest senior brother. It's naturally little brother's sect master's command token? Xiao Hua kept him in suspense and didn't explain. Quickly return this thing. This Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning escape technique is the origin of my Imperial Thunder Sect's lightning escape technique. Without the sect master's permission, you can't practice it. Speaking up to here, Xianxia came to a realization and said unhappily, This is probably the sect master's permission, right? Hee, eldest senior brother actually also thought of it? Xiao Hua touched his nose and said with a smile, You mischievous brat. Xianxia waved his hand and threw it to Xiao Hua, saying, Master has always been thinking about this lightning escape technique for many years. When he sees this jade slip of yours, even if he's angry, it will immediately vanish like smoke in thin air. Saying so, Xianxia clapped his hand and took out a lightning sound-transmitting talisman, about to send it out. Xiao Hua, however, stopped him and said with a smile, Eldest senior brother say, If we personally deliver it to Master, won't he be even more pleasantly surprised? That's true. Xiangyang nodded, his face also looking eager to give it a try. He said with a smile, "We'll go over right now." However, just as Xiaohua and Xiaohua flew up into the air, Xiangyang suddenly stopped. "What's wrong, eldest senior brother?" Xiaohua asked curiously. "Inappropriate. Inappropriate." Xiangyang said inappropriate twice in a row, shaking his head and saying, "The thunder of Myriad Thunder Valley is the most harmful to one's Tao. That year, it was precisely because of that I missed my foundation establishment. This is also the reason why Master didn't take you there all along." Hearing this, Xiaohua was even more curious. He said with a smile, "Master has already passed on to little brother the lightning evasion technique of Myriad Thunder Valley. Every time little brother comes to Master's place, little brother uses it. Little brother isn't even afraid of silent thunder. So why would little brother be afraid of the thunder of Myriad Thunder Valley?" Xiangyang still shook his head. "It's not the same. It's not the same. The reason why Myriad Thunder Valley is called Myriad Thunder Valley is because there are 10,000 kinds of heavenly thunder inside. It's the most embodiment of the might of heaven and earth. Every cultivator who goes to Myriad Thunder Valley is subdued by the might of heaven and earth. If they don't prepare in advance, their Tao heart or Tao foundation will definitely be damaged. You haven't built your foundation yet, so it's best if you don't go there." Xiaohua thought for a moment, then said in a low voice, "How about, we don't go too close? You can just call Master out. And if Master sees me personally going there, even if he's angry, he'll be appeased." Seeing Xiangyang still hesitating, Xiaohua patted his chest and said, "Eldest senior brother, if Master punishes me, little brother will bear all responsibility." "Nonsense," Xiangyang berated, waving his hand. "Let's go." "Haha," Xiaohua laughed as he followed Xiangyang towards the direction of the 10,000 Thunder Valley. Although Xiangyang's Immortal's cave was already within the range of Myriad Thunder Valley, there was still an extremely long distance to Myriad Thunder Valley. With Xiangyang's flying speed, they actually flew for more than an hour. "Good heavens, so far," Xiaohua criticized inwardly. "No wonder no one is willing to come. Moreover, there's soundless thunder all around here, who would come?" Xiaohua secretly took out the command tablet. Sure enough, on the map of the command tablet, the surroundings were precisely dangerous. Rumble. Faintly, the sound of 10,000 horses galloping could be heard from afar. Immediately after, this sound was sharp and concentrated, as if knocking on the bottom of Xiaohua's heart. "Little junior brother, be careful." Although Xiangyang knew that Xiaohua knew how to avoid lightning, he still reminded him. Xiaohua urged his magic power, increasing the power of his lightning avoidance technique by more than 30%. Thus that sound was still in his ears, but Xiaohua's heart was no longer heavy. After flying for a while, the sound of thunder became even stranger. One moment it was waves crashing against the shore, the next moment it was the sound of drums, and the next moment it was some kind of hailstone falling to the ground. All kinds of thunder continuously entered his ears, and all kinds of chaos also stepped into Xiaohua's mind. His lightning avoidance technique gradually became ineffective, his hands and feet were somewhat limp, and his magic power was also difficult to sustain. Eldest senior brother." Xiaohua didn't dare to be too stubborn and called out, "Little brother doesn't dare to go forward anymore." "Good." Seeing this, Xiangyang stopped flying, clapped his hand, and sent out a thunder sound transmitting talisman, waiting in midair. Seeing the sound transmitting talisman fly away, Xiaohua sat cross-legged in midair, closed his eyes and pondered. Although he had just reached the early stage of the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm, in terms of magic power, he wasn't much worse than Xiangyang. However, Xiangyang was fine in this thunder, but he couldn't. The problem was very obvious. It was the difference between true Qi and true essence. "It seems that I still have to hurry up and build my foundation," Xiaohua thought, secretly making up his mind. But at this moment, the silent thunder was like a tide that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, pressing down. At the same time, the thunder in his ears was also like a golden spear and armored horse rushing over. The two different types of thunder overlapped, making Xiaohua suddenly feel that his small boat, which was just barely cruising a moment ago, was in danger of being drowned in an instant. "This is bad." Xiao Hua was alarmed. He knew that if he lost his mind, his Dao heart would definitely be damaged, and his cultivation would definitely regress. The matter of building his foundation. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be careless, and didn't have time to say anything. His figure suddenly rose, and he used the lightning escape technique, flying backwards with all his strength. Xianxia naturally sensed Xiao Hua's strange movements, but he saw that Xiao Hua actually used the lightning escape technique, and it was dormant lightning. That speed was also much faster than his own. He was even more astonished, and actually stared blankly on the spot. Only when Xiao Hua's figure almost disappeared did Xianxia come to his senses. With an extremely complicated expression on his face, he used the flight technique to chase after him. Although Xiao Hua used the lightning escape technique to fly in midair, he was still slower than the thunder by half a second. In the first instant, all the thunder drowned him out. Xiao Hua's mind was suddenly in chaos. The thunder rushed into his ears, and rushed into his Naiwen palace. At this crucial moment, in Xiao Hua's Naiwen palace, the traces of the Buddha Saraira actually sparkled under the impact of the thunder. At the same time, a faint sound of Sanskrit came from the head of the Buddha Saraira, covering up a lot of the thunder. Xiao Hua's mind was immediately pulled out from the chaos. Motherfucker, this 10,000 Thunder Valley is indeed powerful. Xiao Hua's figure didn't stop, and he thought with lingering fear. When the thunder in his ears quieted down, and his mind also stabilized, Xiao Hua hurriedly checked his cultivation. Fortunately, there weren't any obscure signs. This Buddha's Saraira. When Xiao Hua saw the Buddha's Saraira in his mind, he actually discovered that the extremely faint imprint, under the impact of the thunder, had become slightly heavier. In other words, the thunder in this 10,000 Thunder Valley was beneficial to the cultivation of the exquisite leaf scripture. Xiao Hua's mind that had just calmed down, couldn't help but feel refreshed, and he secretly laughed. As the saying goes, the old man loses his horse, who knows if it's a blessing in disguise. The thunder in this 10,000 Thunder Valley is harmful to Ai's cultivation, but I didn't expect it to be a great supplement for the cultivation of the Buddha's Saraira. Chapter 1584. Junior brother behind Xiao Hua, Xiangyang also flew over. He shouted with concern. How are you now? Your cultivation. Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said, Thank you, senior brother. Fortunately, you discovered me early and I escaped quickly, so I didn't suffer any injuries. Xiangyang heard and finally let out a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to speak, helpless divine sense swept over. Then, helpless figure quickly flew from afar. Seeing Xiao Hua here, his face immediately became gloomy and he scolded, Why are you here? Let's go. As he spoke, he waved his big sleeve and brought Xiao Hua outside in the time it took to smoke a pack of cigarettes. Without waiting for his figure to land, Helpless turned his head and scolded, Xiangyang, what kind of senior brother are you? Xiao Hua is still young and doesn't know anything. How can you let him fool around and bring him here? Needless to say, Helpless already understood that it was Xiao Hua who pestered Xiangyang. Master, this is all Disciple's fault. Disciple. Xiao Hua quickly explained. Shut up. Helpless said angrily. How do you know how dangerous this 10,000 Thunder Valley is? Master. Xiangyang thought of Xiao Hua's danger just now and his face also became embarrassed. He lowered his head and said, It's all Disciple's negligence. Master, look. Xiao Hua didn't dare to let Helpless get angry and quickly took out the jade slip. Helpless also knew what Xiao Hua meant. He fiercely glared at Xiangyang and took the jade slip. After he finished reading, his face unconsciously showed a surprised expression. This lightning escape technique was granted to him by Master Qian Lei several years ago, but when this technique was placed in front of him, Helpless' heart couldn't help but beat wildly. After a while, Helpless calmed down. Xiao Hua looked at his face and quickly said, Disciple wanted to give Master a surprise, so I dragged senior brother here. Senior brother obviously didn't want to. Forget it. Helpless waved his hand and looked at him unhappily. You have a lot of ideas. Why didn't you cultivate in the Eastern Ridge and run around? Hee, Master. Didn't Disciple listen to your orders and go to the Thunder Palace's technique pavilion to find a suitable technique? I thought about how I didn't get the lightning escape technique for Master, so I quickly acted. Since the sect master has promised the cultivation technique to me, then whether I take it or not, the cultivation technique is still there and it belongs to me. What's the difference between taking it earlier or later? Helplessly, he said with a taut face. This. Xiao Hua scratched his head helplessly when he heard the awkwardly spoken words. All right, all of you should go back as soon as possible. He waved his sleeve helplessly and said, although this place is far from the myriad Thunder Valley, there are still sounds of thunder. When Xianxia returns, tell Xiao Hua the key to cultivating the 12th layer of refining qi. As he spoke, he flew away without the slightest hesitation. Sigh, really? Master doesn't even say any warm words. Xiao Hua waited helplessly until they were far away before he grumbled. To think that I ran so far with eldest martial brother. Let's go. Xiangyang's face remained calm when he saw this. It was as if he was used to this. He said indifferently as his body floated in the air. All right. Xiao Hua curled his lips and followed behind Xiangyang. Seeing Xiao Hua obediently use ordinary flying techniques to follow behind him, Xiangyang's heart was filled with complex feelings. He clearly reminded himself not to be jealous of this junior martial brother, but his heart was still somewhat uncomfortable. That's right. Hibernating lightning. That was the first layer of the Imperial Thunder Sect's lightning evasion technique. Xiangyang had already known about it when he entered the Imperial Thunder Sect. It was something that couldn't be cultivated without a thunder attribute physique. Coincidentally, he also had a thunder attribute. However, he didn't enter the Heavenly Thunder Palace and could only cultivate the lightning evasion technique of the Seismic Thunder Palace. However, Xiangyang had cultivated the incomplete lightning evasion technique of the Seismic Thunder Palace for a long time, but he still wasn't proficient in it. Normally, when he used it, it wasn't as fast as ordinary flying techniques. Of course, he also understood that even with his aptitude, he was only at the entry level of the first layer of Seismic Thunder Palace's lightning evasion. However, compared to the many disciples who couldn't cultivate the lightning evasion or couldn't enter the entry level, he was already considered pretty good. But, when he saw Xiao Hua use hibernating lightning, this little bit of vanity was instantly struck flying into pieces. The lightning evasion technique was something that only Foundation Establishment disciples could cultivate. Moreover, it also required a thunder attribute physique to cultivate. Why didn't it work on this little junior brother of his? Xiangyang could only smile bitterly. He really didn't want to ask Xiao Hua another word. Not only because this was Xiao Hua's privacy, but also because this was the reason why Xiangyang felt embarrassed to be Xiao Hua's eldest senior brother. An incompetent eldest senior brother. Previously, he had always wanted to properly cultivate Xiao Hua to make up for the regret in his master's heart. At this time, Xiangyang's heart was somewhat unbalanced. When he returned to the Immortal's cave, Xiangyang was different from his usual self. He was originally a man of few words, but now he was even more stingy with his words. Even when Xiao Hua asked him some questions about cultivation, he was somewhat unwilling to say more. Xiao Hua thought that Xiangyang had been reprimanded by his master and was in a bad mood, so he didn't say anything more. He bowed to Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian and took his leave, returning to the eastern ridge. Xiao Hua didn't know about Xiangyang's abnormality, but how could Yan Qinglian not know? After Xiao Hua left, she carefully inquired. At first, Xiangyang didn't want to say, but when he saw the concern in Yan Qinglian's eyes, he finally let out a long sigh and spoke of the jealousy in his heart. That jealousy seemed to be a malignant tumor. When he spoke of it, Xiangyang's heart relaxed a lot. What? Little junior brother can actually use the lightning evasion? And it's the hibernating thunder evasion? When Yan Qinglian heard this, she was also extremely shocked. As a middle-stage Foundation Establishment disciple of the mythical Thunder Palace, how could she not know the importance and difficulty of the hibernating thunder evasion? Can you be sure you didn't see wrongly? Yan Qinglian asked, half believing and half doubting. Xiangyang smiled bitterly. This husband's cultivation may not be high, but I still have a discerning eye. Moreover, little junior brother also gave the Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion to master, so this husband's previous bit of suspicion also vanished like smoke in thin air. Naturally, I can be sure. Haha, although Yan Qinglian's face was still somewhat shocked, a smile appeared on her face. Since Xiao Hua's aptitude is so outstanding, You should be happy that our myriad Thunder Valley has such an outstanding disciple. Why are you jealous of Xiaohua? Xiangyang shook his head. This husband doesn't even know in his heart. It feels like a child who originally needed my protection suddenly doesn't need me anymore. I don't have the slightest bit of value in my existence. My heart feels empty. I really hope he doesn't have this kind of magical ability and still needs this husband's guidance. Husband. Yan Qinglian walked forward and used her arm to hold Xiangyang. The two of them slowly walked out of the cave. Yan Qinglian looked at the mountain forest in front of the cave and saw the pine trees billowing in the wind. She said with a smile, "Husband has always been under Master's majesty and has almost never had a chance to breathe. Coupled with the fact that you haven't been able to make a breakthrough in your cultivation for a long time, the confidence in your heart, I'm afraid, has decreased a lot. Now that you finally have Xiaohua to give you guidance, you can be considered to have found some of the feeling of being an elder. Now that you've discovered that Xiaohua doesn't need your guidance at all in some areas, it's like he suddenly fell from the clouds to the ground. Naturally, there's a contrast." Xiangyang looked at the mottled mountain forest under the sunlight and didn't answer. Yan Qinglian turned her head to look at his expression and said again, "In fact, not to mention our Thunderous Palace, even in Mythical Thunder Palace, Gen Thunder Palace, and the other 7 great Thunder Palaces, there are more than 1,000 young disciples with better aptitudes than you. You're not jealous of others, but why are you jealous of your little junior martial brother? Normally, so many senior martial brothers laugh at you, but your heart is as calm as water, unperturbed by great waves. Why do you feel uncomfortable when the people close to you are stronger than you? If you treat little junior martial brother as our nephew, do you want him to be at the early stage of foundation establishment like you for the rest of his life? Don't want him to surpass you?" Yan Qinglian struck while the iron was hot. "The pupil surpasses the master. This is what you said. If you don't have a broad mind, how can you teach Xianxia, who's in the deification realm?" Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Xiangyang raised his head and laughed heartily. Turn a blind eye, turn a blind eye. People all hide their heads in their bosoms and pretend they don't see. Only this way can their hearts be magnanimous. But is this really magnanimous? As soon as I raise my head and look at the affairs around me, my heart immediately loses balance. I boast that I've already sharpened myself to be smooth, but there's still a little in my heart. If it weren't for my wife's reminder, how could I untie this knot in my heart? It's fine as long as my husband understands," Yan Qinglian said with a smile. "With this little junior martial brother in my 10,000 Thunder Valley, do you think we'll be afraid of being bullied by others in the future?" Ha ha ha. Xiangyang pulled her hand and turned around to walk back to his immortal's cave. He said in a low voice, "Who cares about Xiaohua? My family Xianxia is the true pillar of 10,000 Thunder Valley." A shy expression appeared on Yan Qinglian's face, and she followed Xiangyang back to his immortal's cave. At this moment, Xiaohua was flying in the air. He was also bewildered. He didn't understand why his eldest martial brother was acting so strangely. After returning to Eastern Ridge and opening the formation, Xiaohua immediately returned to his pill room and warmed up the pill furnace, preparing to concoct soul-gathering pills and cultivate to the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. According to Xiaohua's thoughts, without the fire-type spiritual energy of the fire essence flame crystal, it took about 2 years to go from the middle of the 11th layer of the aura refining realm to the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. Wouldn't it take him 5 to 10 years to go from the early stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm to the peak of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm? Moreover, there was still the legendary Great Circle of the aura refining realm. Xiaohua also wanted to solidify his aura refining foundation. When he thought about how he still had to cultivate for 10 years before he could step into the foundation establishment realm and seek revenge on Jiang Jiantong of the 100 Herbs Gate, Xiaohua really didn't want to waste a single moment. He only wanted to close his eyes and meditate, quickly finishing these 10 years of hard work. However, things often didn't go according to one's wishes. On the 3rd day after Xiaohua warmed up the pill furnace and threw the medicinal herbs inside, a messaging talisman was sent to the Eastern Ridges formation. Xiaohua opened the formation in a very bad mood. The 1,000-mile messaging talisman flew to Xiaohua's eyes like a red-crowned crane. When Xiaohua clenched his hand, Shue's voice came from inside. "Xiaohua, I heard from Senior Sun Shu that you also participated in the selection of the Feather Immortal Assembly? How were your results?" Do you have the qualifications to go out and gain experience? Chapter 1585. Also, Xiaohua, how did you cultivate? I heard from Senior Martial Sister Sun Shu that you're already in the early stage of the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. It's only been a year, and you've already advanced. It seems that the day of foundation establishment is just around the corner. You have to wait for me to build our foundation together. I don't want to call you senior in front of you. Nonsense. Your master is a golden core cultivator. I'm already very grateful that I don't call you senior according to seniority. Who dares to call you senior? Xiaohua smiled and also took out a 1,000-mile sound-transmitting talisman. After saying a few words, he waved his hand and opened the formation, letting the sound-transmitting talisman fly away. However, just as Xiaohua had just sat down and had yet to strike the spell on the pill furnace, there was movement in the array again. Damn it, are you done yet? Xiaohua got up in anger and opened the formation. Sure enough, another sound-transmitting talisman flew over. Who's so bored? Xiaohua impatiently pinched the sound-transmitting talisman with his hand. Unexpectedly, the sound-transmitting talisman was Helplessness's voice. Come here. Ah! Xiaohua finally noticed that this sound-transmitting talisman was a lightning sound-transmitting talisman. It was the sound-transmitting talisman that Helplessness and Xianxia often used. Master, what are you calling me for? Don't you know that my pill furnace just started melting? Xiaohua muttered to himself in a very bad mood. Then, he looked at the medicinal liquid inside the pill furnace and clapped his hand. The formation flag of the Heavenly Fire Formation was held in his hand. He activated the magic power in his hand and waved the formation flag, opening the formation in the pill room. A layer of ripples appeared in the air and quickly covered the pill furnace, not leaving a trace behind. Soon after, Xiaohua put away the formation flag and opened the formation, flying straight to the Myriad Thunder Valley. When he arrived at Helplessness's cave in the Myriad Thunder Valley, Helplessness and the other three were all there. The four people's 8 eyes had been staring at Xiaohua since he entered the cave. Was it strange? Was it a question? Was it gratification? Or was it a surprise? That master's wife. Xiaohua's eyes turned, not knowing what to do with his hands and feet. He asked Zhua Minghui for help. What's the matter? Hee, you're very good. Xiaohua, master's wife is very gratified. Zhua Minghui said with a smile. Xiaohua turned his head to look at his helplessly squinted eyes, as if he had just finished drinking the spirit wine. He smiled apologetically and said, Master, why did you call this disciple over? Isn't your disciple cultivating right now? Time is spirit stones. Don't delay this disciple's foundation building. Helplessly curling his lips, he clapped his hands and said, Minghui, pour your husband another cup of wine. Husband, you've already drunk 3 cups today. I'm afraid it's not suitable for you to drink anymore, right? Although Zhua Minghui said this, she still got up and went to the inner mansion. Eldest senior brother, what exactly is going on? Xiaohua turned his head and looked at Xianxia. At this time, Xianxia was no longer as strange as before, but there was still a complicated expression in his eyes. He stared at Xiaohua and said, Little junior brother, master really didn't choose the wrong person. Fine, Xiaohua didn't ask any more questions. He lowered his eyebrows and sat there, quietly listening to the helpless instructions. A moment later, Zhua Minghui brought the spirit wine over. She waved her hand helplessly, and a trace of dark green wine flew into the jade cup. She raised her head and drank it. After a long while, a dark red color appeared on her face. She let out a long sigh and said, Xiaohua, you've done a good thing. You've really made my Myriad Thunder Valley proud. A good thing? Xiaohua was slightly stunned. Didn't I just give Master the lightning evasion technique? But when he thought of the lightning evasion technique, Xiaohua immediately understood. The Feather Immortal Assembly. Of course, it must be that the disciple who participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly had a result, so she had no choice but to say this. However, when he thought of going out to gain experience, Xiaohua's helplessly suspended mood immediately fell to the bottom. He didn't want to leave the stable cultivation environment of the Eastern Mountain Range and become a loose cultivator again. Master. Just as Xiao Hua was about to speak, he sighed helplessly and said, "It's all my fault for being busy with the matters of the myriad Thunder Valley and not thinking about you. It's my fault. Fortunately, you were a loose cultivator before, so you're quite opinionated. In the future, you can make your own decisions about these matters." "Haha, master, you don't need to think too much. Little junior brother is still in Zhenlei Palace right now, so there are many things that he can't discuss with you in time. Besides, the disciples who participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly were mainly at the late stage of the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. Xiao Hua just broke through to the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm, so how could he participate?" "That, master." Xiao Hua couldn't help but interrupt. "How did you know that I participated in the selection? Did the result come out?" "Haha, of course." Helplessly laughing, he clapped his hands and took out a red jade slip. He said with a smile, "This morning, a disciple of the Thunderous Palace sent a message, saying that there was something important. I thought it was something important, but it was actually the good news that you passed the selection." "I passed the selection?" Xiao Hua was stunned. He shook his head like a rattledrum and said, "This is somewhat impossible. Take a look at it." Helplessly waved his hand and the jade slip flew to Xiao Hua's eyes. Xiao Hua took it and read it with his divine sense. Of course, it said clearly, Thunderous Palace disciple Xiao Hua obtained the 20th place in the Battle of Magical Powers in Zhenlei Palace. He passed the selection and obtained the right to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. In 10 months, we will meet at Zhenlei Palace's Spring Thunder Palace to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. Damn it, 20th place. I seem to have heard Yuan Bo and the others say that only the 20th place will go. I am actually the last one. Xiao Hua muttered in his heart. He returned the jade slip to helplessly and shook his head again like a rattledrum. He said, I'm not going. Why would I participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly for no reason? If I have the time, I might as well cultivate for a few more days in the Eastern Ridge. I'm not going. You dare. Helplessly was furious. He stood up and said, if you don't want to go, why didn't you discuss it with me or your senior brother? You decided on your own and went to sign up? Fortunately, you didn't lose face in the myriad Thunder Valley and passed the selection. You're not going again. What are you trying to do? Xiao Hua felt wronged. He said, Master, I also don't know what the selection is about. Moreover, I just want to return a favor. Zhua Minghui was careful. She said with a smile, Husband, Xiao Hua wants to cultivate wholeheartedly. Isn't it because he wants to build his foundation earlier? That's right. However, it seems that Xiao Hua still has something to say. Listen to it. Speak. Helplessly sat down and waved his hand. He looked as if he expected better from Xiao Hua. Therefore, Xiao Hua told him the whole story. In the end, he said, I just wanted to play with them. I just wanted to lose to that disciple in the end. I never thought. Oh, I don't even know what the selection is about. Oh, so that's how it is. Helplessly's face became gloomy. He looked at the cave abode for a while and said in a deep voice, It seems that you're just going to serve as a foil to the others. Yes, I know. I asked for their help, so I naturally have to repay them. Xiao Hua said hurriedly. I know. Helplessly waved his hand again unhappily. I just don't know if that disciple. Xianxia said in a low voice. Helplessly glared at him and said, Don't worry. Since they want to handle this matter, they'll naturally make the appropriate arrangements. Even Xiao Hua, an early-stage 12th layer Qi refining disciple, was used as a foil. How many foils are there? Yes, when I was fighting, I saw many mid-stage 12th layer Qi refining disciples. Xiao Hua said hurriedly. Helplessly tilted his head and looked at Xiao Hua. He asked curiously, How did you pass? Of course I relied on flying. Xiao Hua said without hesitation. Damn it! You're really losing face for my 10,000 Thunder Valley. Helplessly cursed. He naturally knew that Xiao Hua could fly very fast. Even the early-stage Foundation Establishment disciples of Splendid Sect, Qiqiao Sect, and Xuanyan School couldn't catch up to him. Those peak-stage 12th layer Qi refining disciples of Imperial Thunder Sect were nothing. What can I do? I just have to wait to lose to that disciple. As for the others, they can go. Xiaohua said with a shrug. Then, little junior brother, are you going or not? Xiangyang asked. Not going. Going. Xiaohua and helplessly answered at the same time. Damn it, when other people accept a disciple, they are all respectful and reverent to their master. How can my disciple be so disobedient? Do you think that I won't dare to teach you a lesson because you have the sect master's token? Helplessly angrily waved his hand. The spiritual energy in the cave suddenly changed. Husband! Zhua Minghui's expression was also normal. She also waved her hand and blocked helplessly's magic. She said in a deep voice, talk to the child properly. You're always so reckless. You're not satisfied with Xiangyang being honest and obedient. You're not satisfied with Xiaohua having his own ideas. What kind of disciple do you want to accept? Seeing helplessly angry, Xiaohua was also afraid. Seeing his master's wife speaking up for him, his heart felt warm. Helplessly's expression changed. He looked at Zhua Minghui and sat down again. He said somewhat dejectedly, forget it, forget it. If you don't want to go, then so be it. My 10,000 Thunder Valley hasn't participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly for many years. Back then. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Hee, I'll talk about it for you. Zhua Minghui said with a smile. Back then, didn't you take it to heart because you got the 21st place and didn't have the qualifications to participate? Hee, helplessly embarrassedly said. I thought that you could let your master rest in peace in the underworld. You just threw away your responsibility like this. Master. Xiaohua felt wronged and said, how could I know so much? Junior brother, I also participated in this election back then. Unfortunately, I only got the 40th place. The difference is too great. Xiangyang also said with a smile, you're lucky to get this opportunity. You can't give it up. Senior brother, you've been talking for a long time. Isn't it just going out to gain experience? I've been wandering outside for a long time. I really don't want to tire myself out. Xiaohua said with a bitter smile. Hee, husband, this is also your fault. You didn't tell Xiaohua the origin of this Feather Immortal Assembly. Xiaohua will naturally have other ideas. Zhua Minghui said with a smile. Helplessly spreading his hands, he said, how can you blame me? I thought that he signed up for the Feather Immortal Assembly himself. Do you still need me to say it? Xiangyang, tell your junior brother about the Feather Immortal Assembly. Yes, I understand. Following his master's order, Xiangyang told Xiaohua about the Feather Immortal Assembly. As it turned out, there were two countries around the country of Xi that were similar to the country of Xi. They were the country of Lian and the country of Meng. There were several cultivation sects in each of the three countries. In order to promote the communication between the cultivation sects of the three countries and provide opportunities for the disciples of the 12th Qi refining stage to gain experience, the three countries agreed to hold a Feather Immortal Assembly once every 10 years. The so-called Feather Immortal Assembly meant that the cultivators of the 12th Qi refining stage would become real cultivators. Because it was a matter between the three countries, it also affected the reputation of each sect. Every time, the disciples who participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly would be selected in advance. They would strive to defeat their opponents in the competition. Yes, it would be best if they could build their foundation during the Feather Immortal Assembly. On one hand, it would show the strength of the sect. On the other hand, it would show the importance of the Feather Immortal Assembly. Of course, because each sect valued the Feather Immortal Assembly, the disciples of each sect would be honored to be able to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. If they could win a certain reputation during the Feather Immortal Assembly, they would naturally be rewarded handsomely when they returned to their sects. When he heard that they would be handsomely rewarded, Xiaohua's eyes lit up. However, when he thought about it, he realized that the disciples who were going to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly were all in the late Qi refining stage. Which one of them didn't have a profound cultivation? He lost interest again. Eldest senior brother. I'm a rogue cultivator. There are many things that I don't know. Now, I have a question that I want to ask. I don't know if it's a blessing. Xiaohua said after thinking for a while. Haha, there's no harm in asking. If I can't answer, there's still master. Xiangyang said with a smile. Oh, it's like this. I used to think that the country of Xi was the Dawn Rain continent, and the Dawn Rain continent was the country of Xi. Now, I heard from you that there are also the country of Meng and the country of Lian. Then, are there other countries? This Dawn Rain continent. What is it like? Xiao Hua used to only think about escaping and cultivation. He never thought about these things in detail. Even when he heard that Li Zongbao came from the Utopia faction of the country of Lian, he didn't think much of it. Now that he really had a backer, he had the intention to investigate the specific situation of the Dawn Rain continent. Actually, youngest junior brother, your cultivation is too low now. It's not necessarily beneficial to know too much. When I was in the family when I was young, the patriarch never told me much. I only slowly learned about it after I came to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Xiao Hua looked at him helplessly and said with a smile, Master, do you think I should know? He lowered his head helplessly and thought for a moment. Then he looked up at Zhua Minghui. Zhua Minghui also frowned slightly and said in a low voice, Xiao Hua used to be a rogue cultivator. He has experienced a lot of difficulties. He should be able to accept it. Moreover, it's inevitable that he will go out and travel in the future. It's good for him to know something earlier, right? Don't let him be at a loss when he encounters some unexpected things. He'll suffer a great loss. Alas, okay. He waved his hand helplessly and said tirelessly. The more Xiao Hua listened, the more he frowned. The more he listened, the more fascinated he became. He really didn't expect that he was a frog at the bottom of a well. He only saw the country of Xi. He didn't expect that outside of the country of Xi, on the vast and boundless Dawn Rain continent, there was such a colorful world of cultivation. Chapter 1586. It turned out that the country of Xi wasn't the only country on the Xiaoyu continent. The neighboring countries that had good relations with the country of Xi were the country of Lian and the country of Meng. The territories of these three countries were intertwined with each other and they had a lot of interactions with each other. To the west of the country of Xi was the country of Heng. Heng's territory was semicircular and bordered the country of Xi, the country of Meng, and the country of Lian. Among them, the country of Xi, the country of Lian, and the country of Meng focused on the cultivation of Dao. Magic tools and treasures were only used as support and were only used in battle. The country of Heng focused on the cultivation of tools. That is, they relied on external objects such as flying swords, magic tools, or spirit beasts while cultivating. Because people who walked different paths couldn't work together, although the country of Xi and the other two countries all cultivated Dao, they didn't interact much and even had conflicts most of the time. The reason why the country of Heng focused on tools was because the country of Heng's west and south borders were the millions of Meng Mountains. The millions of Meng Mountains were different from the four cultivation countries. In the four cultivation countries, aside from secular people, there were only cultivators. However, in the millions of Meng Mountains, there were no cultivators. Aside from the barbaric mountain people, there were only soul cultivators, also known as soul cultivators. As the name suggests, these soul cultivators cultivated the soul, which was completely different from cultivators. The millions of Meng Mountains were extremely vast and there were countless dangerous mountains and rivers. The living environment was extremely harsh and the original mountain people were in a semi-civilized state, so soul cultivators had a hard time developing. Therefore, soul cultivators often harassed the country of Heng, wanting to expand to the eastern cultivation countries. It was because of this that the cultivators of the country of Heng had to cultivate fighting techniques. Every cultivator of the country of Heng was a warrior, to resist the attacks of soul cultivators. Of course, aside from the four cultivation nations and the millions of soul cultivators in Meng Mountains, there was a vast desert to the north of the Xiaoyu continent. North of the desert was the land of the far north. To the east of the Meng Kingdom and the Lian Kingdom was the sea of heaven and earth. It was vast and boundless and filled with countless dangers. Not even cultivators dared to venture there, let alone mortals. To the east of the millions of Meng Mountains was a huge cultivation alliance called the Li Li Alliance. The cultivation level of the Li 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 Alliance was higher than the four cultivation countries. Not only did the cultivation sects have a lot of high-level cultivators, but the strength of the cultivation sects. Of course, there were many rogue cultivators in the Defeat Oak Alliance. The status of rogue cultivators was also higher than the status of rogue cultivators in the four cultivation countries. Moreover, it was said that the Defeat Valley Alliance had all kinds of cultivation techniques, Unlike the country of Xi, which was so poor. Why was it said? That was because there were millions of Meng mountains between the Defeat League and the four nations of cultivators. This region was too dangerous, and without powerful cultivators, it was not easy to pass through it. Cultivators from the four nations of cultivators would not take the risk to go to the Defeat League, because there was a high possibility of losing their lives there. And those who had the ability to pass through the Defeat League had no reason to come to a backward place like the country of Xi. As for the teleportation formation, because the distance was too far, ordinary teleportation formations couldn't reach it. The four cultivation countries didn't have the power to set up such a formation, and the Failure Alliance wouldn't spend the effort to do such a thing. Helplessly and slowly, Xiaohua listened with fascination. Unexpectedly, there was a place where rogue cultivators could sit on equal footing with cultivator sections. Unexpectedly, there was a place where cultivators didn't have to worry about cultivation methods. Unexpectedly, there were soul cultivators, weapon cultivators, sword cultivators, and so on. It was truly miraculous. That's right, Master. What is a charm? Is it the same as that soul cultivator? After helplessly finished his simple explanation, the cave was silent. Xiaohua thought for a moment and asked, "Charm?" Helplessly slightly frowned and shook his head. It is said that this is a cultivation method left behind from ancient times. Master also doesn't understand it, but soul cultivators are just a general term for cultivating the soul. A human being has 3 souls and 6 spirits. It is said that there are 3 souls, 1 is the heaven soul, 2 is the earth soul, and 3 is the life soul. There are 7 spirits, 1 is the heaven rush, 2 is the spirit wisdom, 3 is the chi, 4 is the strength, 5 is the core, 6 is the essence, and 7 is the hero. Every soul and every spirit can be cultivated, but as for how to cultivate, Master doesn't know. In addition, soul cultivators also include spirit cultivators, corpse cultivators, ghost cultivators, yin cultivators, and so on. However, these are all rumors. Master also heard them from hearsay. Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly thought of something and asked, "Then, which cultivation sect is the Buddhist sect?" Buddhist sect? Which cultivation sect? Helplessly stared blankly, the expression on his face tightened, and he said in a low voice, "Xiaohua, how do you know about this Buddhist sect?" Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart thumped, and he hurriedly smiled apologetically. Disciple only heard people casually mention it before. Disciple also doesn't know where it is. Hee, husband, don't be nervous. Didn't you hear Xiaohua ask which cultivation sect is the Buddhist sect? How would he know those things? And that's true. Helplessly nodding, he thought for a moment and said, "Xiaohua, remember, the Buddhist sect isn't a cultivation sect. As for what it is, don't ask too much. Just pretend that you've never heard of this name." "Yes, disciple understands." Xiaohua hurriedly nodded like a chick pecking at rice. How could he dare to say that he cultivated the Buddhist Saraira? In order to change the topic, Xiaohua asked again. Disciple still has a question. Helplessly looking at him, Xiaohua rolled his eyes. "You have a lot more questions than your eldest senior brother." Hee, disciple's knowledge is shallow. Of course I have to ask. Xiaohua smiled. My Imperial Thunder sect also has a method to refine magic tools. We also use magic tools. Why? Is it different from Huan country's magic tool cultivators? That's very simple. Helplessly smiling, Xiaohua said, "You've seen flying sword talismans, right?" Xiaohua nodded. Disciple has. Speaking, he waved his hand and took out a flying sword talisman. And then have you also seen flying swords? Helplessly continuing to ask. Disciple had the fortune to see it once. Xiaohua thought of Li Zongbao's flying sword. And then what do you think is the difference between flying sword talismans and flying swords? Helplessly shaking his head. Xiaohua smiled. Although disciple doesn't understand flying sword talismans and flying swords are still very far apart. How can disciple not know? That flying sword talisman is just a yellow talisman. How can it compare to flying swords? And since you know the difference, then sword cultivators' flying swords compared to our flying swords is just this difference. Helplessly smiling. The difference is that big? Xiaohua was flabbergasted. Sword cultivators' flying swords are planted in their dantian from the qi refinement stage. They use their own blood essence to carefully cultivate it and connect their primordial spirit with the flying sword. That flying sword is like a baby. It will also slowly grow along with the sword cultivator's cultivation. Our flying swords can only be used for attack. Perhaps it can be used for simple flight. In addition, there can also be flying magic tools and attacking magic tools. But a sword cultivator's flying sword is everything. Using the body as a sword to fly, imperial sword technique and so on. It can't be this flying sword. Can still grow. Xiaohua almost didn't believe it. Magic tools are flying swords? Magic treasures are flying swords? Ha ha, junior brother. There are many strange things in the cultivation world. Flying swords are still relatively orthodox. In our 3 cultivation countries, there are also sects that specialize in using flying swords. It is said that there are also natal magic treasures that are circular and duplicated. I also heard that there are some beast cultivators from the Million Meng Mountains who use spirit beasts as their natal magic treasures to increase their cultivation. Don't you think it's strange? Beast cultivators. Xiaohua was stunned. He couldn't help but think of his dragonization art. The cultivation of this dragonization art. I wonder if it's a beast cultivator? Husband, you're absolutely right. Yan Qinglian hadn't said anything all this time. At this time, she echoed, there are also powerful people in our 3 cultivation countries. Although they disdain to cultivate beast cultivators, they also use the principles within as a reference. They introduced beast blood and beast skin into talisman crafting techniques, thus creating the so-called beast spirit talismans. Giant spirit beast talismans, sky-shaking flying talismans and so on are all used to change the cultivator's bloodline and borrow the power of spirit beasts. Xiaohua secretly nodded. Thinking of Can Mingwei's transformation, he said inwardly, so that's how it is. All right, Xiaohua, Master and your eldest senior brother have already explained the matter of the Feather Immortal Assembly to you clearly. Being able to participate in this Feather Immortal Assembly is a kind of honor. Not only can you cultivate, but you can also increase your experience. You can also make friends with other cultivators in the 3 cultivation countries, which is greatly beneficial for your future cultivation. Just now before you came, I already asked the manager of the Thunder Palace. Apart from you, only that bastard Jianghu's disciple called Wang Yunxiao has obtained the qualifications to participate. If you don't go. At this point, Xiaohua shut his mouth and didn't say anything else. At this time, Xiaohua finally understood why Xiaohua was so angry that he didn't participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. It was because of Jianghu. That late-stage foundation establishment cultivator who didn't get along with Xiaohua, that guy who snatched Wang Yunxiao away. At this time, Zhuo Minghui also said, perhaps Xiaohua still doesn't know that because every disciple who participates in the Feather Immortal Assembly represents the Thunder Palace, every disciple has the opportunity to go to their respective Thunder Palace's treasure house to choose a magic tool of some use when they obtain the qualifications to participate. Ah? When Xiaohua heard this, his eyes lit up. Forget it. Since Xiaohua has already decided not to go, then there's no need to go. Xiaohua shook his head and said, my Thunder Palace doesn't have any good magic tools, but they were all left behind by seniors. It's better to just leave them there. Magic tools aren't much. The key is cultivation. If Xiaohua's cultivation quickly increased to foundation establishment, how many magic tools can he use? We can't lose the long term because of short-term benefits. Husband, you're right. We can't delay Xiaohua's cultivation for the sake of the 10,000 Thunder Valley's reputation. Zhuo Minghui nodded with a smile. We can't. Master, that's the Thunder Palace's magic tool. In the past, I've always wanted to obtain it. Today, junior brother finally has a chance. Xianxia was anxious and said hurriedly. Beside him, Yan Qinglian pursed her lips and kept shooting glances at Xianxia. If it weren't for the fact that Xiaohua was here, she would have already transmitted her voice to Xianxia. Seeing that the cute senior brother had brought the ladder over, how could Xiaohua let it go? He immediately stood up and said in a loud voice, thank you for your guidance, senior brother. Since it's for the sake of the 10,000 Thunder Valley's reputation, junior brother will definitely fight for master, senior brother, and martial ancestor even if my cultivation is delayed. Chapter 1587. Please don't make things difficult for me. He asked helplessly. I'm not making things difficult. I'm not making things difficult. Xiaohua patted his chest. I'm not making things difficult. He asked helplessly again. I'm not making things difficult. I'm not making things difficult. Xiaohua's face was full of smiles. He seemed to be very happy. Humph, he snorted helplessly and said. Even if you go, won't you just run away? Won't you still embarrass my 10,000 Thunder Valley? Xiaohua said with a smile. Master, isn't the purpose of the Feather Immortal Assembly held by the 3 cultivation countries? It's enough for me to participate in this assembly. Is there a need to fuss about the ranking? That thing can't be eaten or drunk. Since junior brother passed the qualification test, he must have some confidence. He's only in the early stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. It's normal for him to lose to anyone. Xianxia said. Do you think I don't know? He glared helplessly at Xianxia. This kid used to be a loose cultivator. What kind of sinister methods hasn't he seen? To be able to take the 20th place among more than 200 late-stage aura refining disciples, he naturally has some tricks up his sleeve. Xianxia, you and Xiaohua practice a few moves. Weigh his weight. There's no need. Master, junior brother just reached the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. Xianxia was in a difficult position. After all, aura refining cultivators were fundamentally different from foundation building cultivators. What are you afraid of? Can you still injure Xiaohua? He said coldly and helplessly. Xiaohua was also unhappy. He smiled apologetically and said, Master, there's no need for a spar. My cultivation is shallow, and I haven't refined the magic tool Master's wife gave me. I really can't compete with senior brother. He glared helplessly at him and said, I told you to spar, so just spar. Where's all this nonsense coming from? Xianxia and Xiaohua were helpless. They could only walk out of the cave. The 5 of them all flew into the air. They had no choice but to stand 1,000 feet away and watch from afar. Xianxia glanced at Xiaohua and said with a smile, Junior brother, if you have any tricks up your sleeve, use them all. Your cultivation can't injure me. Moreover, only if you use all your skills will Master be able to teach you more. This is a rare opportunity. Xiaohua originally wanted to hold back, but after hearing Xiangyang's words, he understood in his heart that although Xianxia was only an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator, he had been in the foundation establishment realm for a long time. His magic power was not something he could compare with. If they really fought, he wouldn't even be able to protect himself, so how could he hold back? That would be a laughingstock. Okay, little brother understands. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said. Xiangyang smiled and cupped his hands. Junior martial brother, please. Elder first, eldest senior brother please. Xiaohua said with a smile. Or. Xiangyang was about to decline. Suddenly, he saw that Xiaohua's posture of cupping his hands didn't change, but his entire body suddenly crashed into him. What are you doing? Xiangyang was slightly stunned. In the instant he was stunned, Xiaohua flung his hand, and 6 fireball talismans were scattered on top of Xiangyang's head. The 6 fireball talismans were scattered under Xiangyang's feet. The position of these 6 fireball talismans was roughly the same as the position of the array disk of the heavenly fire array. Moreover, these 12 fireball talismans were extremely fast under the control of the Buddhist consciousness. Xiangyang was stunned and clapped his hands. Just as he held a small hammer in his hand, the 12 fireball talismans exploded on his upper and lower body at the same time. Rumble! The 2 waves of air pressed towards Xiangyang in tacit understanding. Ouch! Xiangyang felt a huge magic power fluctuation, and the defensive spell around his body flashed brilliantly, as if it was about to be annihilated. Xiangyang didn't have time to activate the magic tool in his hand. He formed a seal in his hand, urged his magic power, and cast the seal on his body. Just as Xiangyang urged his magic power, Xiaohua raised his hand again, and the same 12 fireball talismans were scattered in the same position. Xiangyang's defensive spell was cast, and his 12 fireball talismans were also cast and exploded. The same rumble, the same heat wave, and the same magic power fluctuation rushed towards Xiangyang. Xiangyang was helpless and urged his magic power to protect himself. But just as he finished casting the spell, Xiao Hua's 12 fireball talismans were also cast. This. Xianxia almost wanted to laugh bitterly. Is there anyone who fights like this? This happened several times. Xianxia wanted to use up all of Xiao Hua's fireball talismans, but his heart was distressed for these fireball talismans. After thinking for a moment, he no longer used all of his magic power on the spell. He urged his flying technique while maintaining his defense. However, the fireball talisman's airwaves were different from what he imagined. It almost blocked all the directions he could fly in. He could only use his magic power to forcibly break through the airwaves. Forget it. Xiangyang's heart was somewhat sour. He no longer urged his magic power to defend his body. He wanted to risk a slight injury to escape from the siege of the fireball talismans. Xiangyang was very clear that as long as he urged the magic tool in his hand, he would definitely be able to reverse the situation. Sure enough, as Xiangyang was about to rush out of the siege of the fireball talismans, the defensive brilliance of his body was torn apart by the explosion of the fireball. At the same time, an already weak magic power fluctuation rushed to Xiangyang's chest. Xiangyang didn't pay attention to this fluctuation. He urged his magic power to urge the hammer, and a circle of blue lightning appeared from the middle of the hammer. It followed the hammer down and quickly reached the tip. Hee, junior brother, eat my hammer. Xiangyang laughed, and casually smashed outwards. His divine sense had been locked onto Xiao Hua. He firmly believed that even if Xiao Hua knew the hibernating thunder escape, this lightning would definitely hit Xiao Hua's side. However, at the same time he waved his magic tool, a portion of the magic power fluctuation that attacked his chest still rushed over, while a portion seemed to slightly stagnate. It was this stagnant magic power fluctuation that made him raise his guard. He left a trace of divine sense to sweep over, and Xiangyang immediately turned pale with fright. A jet-black iron needle had stopped right in front of his chest. At this time, how could Xiangyang still care about using his magic tool to attack Xiao Hua? He hurriedly changed the direction of his magic tool and attacked the black iron needle before the magic tool was released. Zalala! The lightning met the black iron needle with extreme speed. That black iron needle suddenly jumped, and like a jumping black fish, it nimbly flew into the distant sky. Haha, eldest senior brother, look at my trump card. Taking advantage of Xiangyang's busy dealing with the fireball talismans, Xiao Hua had already flown away from Xiangyang. He clapped his hand, and that black dust was held in his hand. He waved his hand, and an earthen yellow brilliance was released from the black dust. It was like a concrete earth pillar, and like a huge boulder, it smashed towards Xiangyang. Seeing this, Xiangyang smiled and said, "Come at me." Then his body flew up, and the magic tool in his hand continuously waved. Every time he waved it, a bolt of lightning would flash out and attack the brilliance above his head. Zalala! The countless lightning bolts hit the black dust brilliance, and it was like pouring boiling water on top of snow. The countless particles within that earthen yellow brilliance were melted by the lightning. The lightning bolts followed the earthen yellow light pillar and quickly chased after Xiao Hua. Damn it, the difference is really too great. When Xiao Hua saw the situation, he knew that he couldn't compete with his eldest senior brother in terms of magic tools. He clapped his hand, and the black dust brilliance was immediately withdrawn. His hand shook, and that black dust brilliance was absorbed into the space. After losing the black dust brilliance, the lightning bolts didn't disappear, and still attacked Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua naturally didn't dare to stay in the air. His body flew up, and he escaped far away. Hee, Xiangyang finally turned the situation around. He smiled, and just as he was about to wave his magic tool again, in his divine sense, the black iron needle that had just flown away flew back again. This time, Xiangyang wasn't afraid. He separated a trace of his divine sense and wrapped it around the black iron needle, as if he wanted to forcefully snatch the black iron needle. Ouch! Xiao Hua was shocked. He didn't think that Xiangyang would have this kind of skill. He quickly controlled the black iron needle to quickly retreat. This black iron needle was sacrificed by Xiao Hua using a secret technique. Although Xiangyang's divine sense was powerful, he still couldn't control the black iron needle very well. Xiao Hua nimbly dodged it, and it flew far away again. Seeing the black iron needle fly away, Xiangyang didn't chase after it. He waved the magic tool in his hand again, and a bolt of lightning appeared, attacking Xianxia. Xianxia knew that the defensive yellow talisman on his body was useless, so he naturally couldn't let the lightning strike him. He could only escape far away before the lightning struck. Fortunately, Xiaohua's flying technique was very fast, and he always escaped before Xiangyang's lightning struck him. Looking at Xiangyang again, although he took the initiative, his speed was still much slower than Xiaohua's. He couldn't catch up, and his magic tool couldn't hit Xiaohua. The two of them were in a deadlock like this for a while. Soon after, Xiangyang reduced the number and strength of activating his magic tool. His other hand began to form an extremely complicated seal. As the seal in Xiangyang's hand gradually formed, traces of heaven and earth spiritual energy condensed in his hand. When the seal was formed, Xiangyang used his divine sense to lock onto Xiaohua. He waved the seal, and under the control of his divine sense, it directly hit Xiaohua's body. Although Xiaohua's flying speed was very fast, in the end, it couldn't be faster than divine sense. Under the control of divine sense, the seal actually managed to catch up to Xiaohua. How could Xiaohua want to dodge this seal? He could only use the hibernating thunder escape to escape far away. But contrary to Xiangyang's expectations, the moment the seal hit Xiaohua, Xiaohua's figure actually flashed. There was no trace of magic power fluctuation at all, and then as fast as lightning, he pounced on Xiangyang's chest. Not good. Xiaohua wants to use fireball talismans again. This was Xiangyang's first thought. He naturally wasn't willing to let Xiaohua get close to him. Thus, on one hand, he controlled the seal, on the other, he urged his magic tool, and on the other, he used his flying technique, wanting to increase the distance between him and Xiaohua. Unfortunately, Xiaohua's figure was nimble. Every time it was impossible to dodge the lightning and seal, he had already closed in on Xiangyang in an instant. Sure enough, seeing that the distance was right, Xiaohua shook his hand, and another 12 fireball talismans appeared. However, at this time, Xiangyang had a magic tool in his hand. Before the fireball talismans could explode, they were destroyed by his magic tool. There were simply not many that exploded. However, just as Xiangyang was distracted, Xiaohua's flying speed suddenly increased again. Xiangyang only saw a flash in front of him, and Xiaohua had already flown in front of him. He saw Xiaohua raise his hand, as if he wanted to take something out, but after hesitating for a moment, he was still empty-handed in the end. And at this time, Xiangyang waved his hand in a flurry, and a great confinement technique that didn't use much magic power was cast by him. It precisely hit Xiaohua's body. Chapter 1588. The great confinement technique quickly hit Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua leaned to the side, seemingly unable to dodge in time. His entire body immediately stiffened and fell from the sky like a large rock. In the distance, Wu Hai, Zhuo Minghui, and Yan Qinglian were all dumbstruck. First, Xiaohua used the fireball talisman tactic to firmly suppress Xiangyang, giving him no chance to dodge. Then, Xiaohua's black iron needle appeared. Of course, although Xiaohua's black iron needle was very strange, it couldn't escape Wu Hai's and Yan Qinglian's divine sense. Only Xiangyang couldn't see it clearly under the suppression of the fireball talisman. Seeing Xiaohua's favorable start, Wu Hai and the others already understood. Even an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator like Xiangyang could be trapped by Xiaohua. How could a 12th-stage qi refining cultivator be so lucky? Of course, this was on the premise that Xiaohua had enough fireball talismans. Seeing this, Wu Hai and the others were already very surprised, but they didn't expect what happened next would be even more unexpected. Xiangyang, an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator, actually couldn't catch up to Xiaohua, an early-stage qi refining cultivator. There was a difference of several stages between the two of them. In the end, Xiaohua gave up the chance to escape and turned around to attack Xiangyang. They originally thought that Xiaohua had an even more unexpected trump card, but in the end, he was actually defeated by Xiangyang's very ordinary great confinement technique. This was indeed unexpected. Xiangyang was naturally also stunned, but he immediately used a flying technique to descend and cast a spell on Xiaohua's body to remove the great confinement technique. Ha ha ha, eldest senior brother. You're really powerful. I used all my methods and still couldn't defeat you. Xiaohua jumped in the air and laughed. Xiangyang was also very carefree. He waved his arms and was about to speak when Wu Hai scolded from above. What a joke! What cultivation level do you have? You actually dare to say you can defeat your eldest senior brother? If you really defeated him, how is that possible? Zhua Minghui also laughed. I've only heard of middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators defeating late-stage foundation establishment cultivators with magic tools, but I've never heard of late-stage qi refining cultivators defeating early-stage foundation establishment cultivators. The difference between the two stages is really too great. Little junior brother is already very good. Yan Qinglian smiled and said, if it was really a fight, little junior brother would have run away long ago. Even if Xiangyang wanted to chase after him, he wouldn't be able to. Helplessly, he nodded slightly. He could see that Xiao Hua's flight technique was truly a lot stronger than Xiangyang's. Back then, when he heard that Xiao Hua had escaped from the hands of 4 foundation establishment cultivators, he was admittedly astonished, but he felt that it was somewhat exaggerated, so he hadn't mentioned it in the past few years. Now that he had seen it with his own eyes, he had no choice but to believe it. In this world, there really were some unparalleled people. They really made ordinary people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Master, this disciple only has this little bit of cultivation. I've let you see a joke. Xiao Hua's face looked indifferent, and he said very calmly, let's head down first. Waving his hands helplessly, the crowd returned to their abodes. He helplessly looked at Xiao Hua and said, Xiao Hua, you have indeed exceeded my expectations. Just like what your senior sister-in-law said, you did very well. It's just that your weakness is also very obvious. That is, your foundation is too weak. Because you haven't gone through a very systematic cultivation of spells like your eldest senior brother, you can't use some basic spells smoothly. For example, just now, even if you didn't have time to take out a yellow talisman, you could have used something like the Ice Seal technique to block the Great Confinement technique for a moment. Why didn't you take advantage of that time to run away? Yes, this disciple understands. This disciple's basic spells were all snatched from others and comprehended by myself. How could they be better than eldest senior brothers? Xiao Hua said sincerely. During this period of time, let your eldest senior brother teach you all of the basic magic spells that you know. The simpler it is, the more practical it is. Just look at your eldest senior brother's Great Confinement technique and you'll know. Helplessly looked at Xiangyang. Yes, this disciple understands. This disciple will carefully guide little junior brother. Xiangyang hurriedly said. Also, where did you get that earth attribute magic tool? It doesn't seem to be very handy. Helplessly said with a deep meaning. Hee, where else could I have gotten it from? I snatched it from a spirit husbandry sect disciple. Xiao Hua didn't hide anything and gave a rough explanation. Poor child. Hearing that Xiao Hua had gone through so much hardship just to obtain some third-level qi refining techniques, Zhua Minghui's eyes immediately turned red. She said, I've always thought that rogue cultivators are despicable, harming people's lives and snatching their techniques. But now that I hear it, they had no choice. Yes, Master knows. Although this disciple was a rogue cultivator back then, I had always relied on my own efforts to obtain techniques. I would never dare to harm people's lives in the name of cultivation. These 2 spirit husbandry sect disciples were indeed despicable, wanting to take this disciple's life. That's why this disciple. Master knows, Master knows. Zhua Minghui hurriedly said, 2 5th and 6th level qi refining cultivators bullying a 2nd level qi refining cultivator like you. Even if it means taking their lives, it's only right. Humph. Give the magic tool to Master. Helplessly said as he spread out his hands. What? Master, don't tell me you're on good terms with the spirit husbandry sect? Helplessly was shocked and very unwilling to hand it over. Hee, since when would your master be so biased? Zhua Minghui smiled and said, your magic tool hasn't been reforged. The spirit husbandry sect disciples would know that it belongs to them. Wouldn't they cause trouble for you? Your master wants to take it to the Thunder Flashing Hall and ask the weapon refiners to reforge it for you. Was that true? That's great. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and took out the white dust. He handed it over and then asked embarrassedly, Master, this disciple still has one more. Can I also? Helplessly said in annoyance. How many more do you have? Give them all to me? In Xiao Hua's dimension, there were still a few magic tools used by Xianxia. It was a pity that he didn't dare to take them out. Xiao Hua took them out with a smile and said, "This disciple only has these 2 treasures. How could there be more?" Helplessly took them and put them into her storage bag. She then said, "You definitely haven't refined the magic tool that your master's wife gave you. With it you have the means to attack. However, looking at your fight just now, your defense is still too weak. If you want to choose a magic tool, you have to choose one that can defend." "Husband, I don't think that's necessarily the case." Zhua Minghui said, "Xiao Hua's flying speed is extremely fast. This is his best defense. If he can't hit him, he can escape. Therefore, I think Xiao Hua should make a fuss in this attack. The stronger the magic tool, the better." When Xiao Hua heard this, it was exactly what he wanted. He nodded and said, "Master's wife is right." Then, with a wave of his hand, he took out the magic spear and said with a smile, "This disciple had a very interesting thing before. Just now, I saw that eldest senior brother's defense was very strong, so I didn't take it out." Magic tool? Helplessly scanned with her divine sense and said with a smile, "You have a lot of good things on you." As she said this, she reached out to take it. Xiao Hua hurriedly said, "Master, you should be careful. This thing is very heavy." "You think I don't know?" Helplessly, she glared at him and used a bit of magic power on her arm. As a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator, she naturally didn't care too much about the weight of this magic spear. However, after taking it, she was also surprised. "You want to use this magic spear to break your senior brother's defense?" Helplessly, she whispered. "Yes, this disciple indeed has this idea." Xiao Hua didn't hide it. "When this disciple was a loose cultivator, I used this method to escape many times." "Xiangyang, don't move. Let Xiao Hua try." Helplessly, she waved her hand and said, "You old man, Xiao Hua didn't use it just now. He knows this move won't work. Even if you want to teach him a lesson, you don't need to test it on Xiangyang, right?" Zhua Minghui said with a smile. However, Xiangyang was honest. He hurriedly stood up and said with a smile, "It's fine. This disciple will stand here and not move." Xiao Hua took the magic spear and walked in front of Xiangyang with a smile, saying, "Eldest senior brother, don't move. This little brother will offend you." Xiangyang waved his hand. "Don't worry. This brother is a foundation establishment cultivator. I have magical powers that you can't imagine. Okay, be careful, eldest senior brother." Xiao Hua also wasn't polite. He waved his hand, and the devil's spear in his hand pierced towards Xiangyang's waist. Shua, a light sound was heard. A faint brilliance flashed and blocked Xiao Hua's spear. However, Xiangyang couldn't block Xiao Hua's incomparably huge force. His figure slightly staggered. Immediately after, a scene that helplessness, Xiangyang, and the others didn't expect happened. They saw Xiao Hua's right hand suddenly thrusting the magic spear continuously. That right hand seemed to be an illusion in everyone's eyes. Waves of huge force that Xiangyang couldn't resist hit Xiangyang's waist. Xiangyang's body was almost sent flying. However, even so, Xiao Hua's spear still didn't leave Xiangyang's waist. Gotcha! In just a few breaths of time, everyone heard a light sound. They saw Xiangyang's body flicker with brilliance and then it was annihilated. Xiangyang. This foundation establishment early-stage cultivator's defensive brilliance was actually destroyed by Xiao Hua. Ah! Yan Qinglian was greatly alarmed. She almost stood up. Helplessness waved his hand, wanting to stop Xiao Hua. As for Xiao Hua himself, when the first spear pierced Xiangyang, he already had a plan in his heart. Seeing the defensive brilliance break, he immediately stopped. He held Xiangyang's hand and said, "Eldest senior brother, Master didn't let you move, but he didn't say you couldn't replenish your magic power. If you keep getting beaten like this, it will break sooner or later." Xiangyang's hand formed a seal, and the brilliance on his body flashed again. He said with a bitter smile, "Master just wanted to see how powerful your magic spear is. If I replenish my magic power, how can he see it? Besides, your magic spear is really powerful. If I didn't see it in advance, even if I replenished my magic power, I'm afraid it would be too late." "What a pity." Helplessness said from the side, Xiao Hua's magic spear is a good thing, but its weight is still limited. It can't break a Foundation establishment cultivator's defense in the shortest time possible. If it was several times heavier, I'm afraid Xianxia wouldn't be able to withstand it. Master, look at what you're saying. If it were any heavier, disciple wouldn't be able to lift it. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Hee, not bad, not bad. Your body's strength actually has a use. Let Master think for you. Helplessly laughing, Xiao Hua said, but right now, it's no problem to deal with ordinary qi refining cultivators. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. He bowed and said, Many thanks, Master. Chapter 1589. Then he stood up and said, Let's go. Follow me to the Thunder Flash Hall. You can choose a magic tool, and I'll find a familiar blacksmith. Xiao Hua didn't expect Helpless to be so anxious, so he was naturally happy. He bid farewell to Zhuo Minghui and the others, then followed Helpless to the Thunder Flash Hall. Along the way, Helpless seemed to be testing Xiao Hua's flying technique. He was extremely fast and didn't hold back at all. Xiao Hua didn't use the hibernating thunder escape, but he wasn't slow either. Although he couldn't catch up to Helpless, he still couldn't stop smiling. When they arrived at the Thunder Flash Hall, Helpless called the disciple in charge of odd jobs over and explained the situation. The disciple checked the records and said with a smile, So it's the disciple representing the Thunderquake Palace in the Feather Immortal Assembly. I'm really envious. Junior Marshal Brother. Please wait a moment. I'll inform the deacon to come over. The place where the magic tools are kept is very important. Without the deacon's personal guidance, no one can open the restriction. With that, the disciple sent out a summoning talisman. After a short while, the burly deacon came over. The deacon obviously knew Helpless, and after cupping his hands in greeting, he repeatedly congratulated him. However, in all these years, he had never received so many compliments. His mouth, which could not close, opened even wider. He said, This poor Taoist is a good-for-nothing disciple. His face was full of pride. How was he a good-for-nothing disciple? He was a good-for-nothing disciple. However, it was no wonder that Helpless was so proud. Even Xianxia and the disciple on duty were surprised. Thunderquake Palace had held the Feather Immortal Assembly countless times in the past. All the disciples who participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly were experts at the peak of the 12th layer. When had there ever been a disciple like Xiao Hua who had just entered the 12th layer? Of course, there were occasionally disciples in the middle of the 12th layer who were qualified to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. But those disciples were all direct disciples of the Thunderquake sect. Their masters and grandmasters weren't people that Helpless could compare to. I's good-for-nothing disciple will be handed over to you, Senior Marshal Brother Zhen. If he doesn't listen to you, you can teach him a lesson. Just treat it as me taking action on behalf of I. Helpless held Xiao Hua's hand and said to Zhenxing, I have some matters to attend to elsewhere. I'll come back later. I hope Senior Marshal Brother can take care of me. Zhenming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He cupped his hands and said, Junior Brother, you can go ahead and do your own thing. The matter of choosing artifacts is the disciple's business. Even if I want to take care of them, I don't know how to do it. Xiao Hua is still young. He simply doesn't know what kind of magic tool is suitable for him. If Senior Brother has the chance, I still have to remind him. When Zhenming heard this, he knew that if he didn't say anything, he wouldn't leave. He could only smile and say, I understand. Junior Marshal Brother, you can go now. Of course, these words were perfunctory, but they were also clear in their hearts. But when they heard it, their hearts were finally at ease. They cupped their hands and gave Xiao Hua a few more instructions before leaving. After he helplessly left, Zhenming looked at Xiao Hua. The trace of gentleness on his face gradually disappeared. He waved his hand and said, Follow me. As he spoke, he walked into the inner hall without looking back. The disciple on duty just now stood there and did not follow him. Xiao Hua was no stranger to Shualei Hall. He had been here several times, but he didn't go deep inside. He always stayed in the main hall. This time, as Zhenming slowly walked inside, He realized that Shualei Hall was really wide. After walking for the time it takes to burn an incense stick, he didn't know how many disciples bowed to him. He also didn't know how many corridors he passed before he finally stopped at the entrance of a side hall. Zhen Ming walked to the entrance of I. The door was tightly shut. It was the same as usual. There were no fluctuations of magic power. Xiao Hua knew that this was the place where the artifacts were stored, so he tactfully stopped. Zhen Ming patted his storage bag and took out his identity token. His other hand formed a seal and hit the door of the side hall. Woo! With a loud roar, the palace door flashed and gradually changed shape. It actually let out the roar of a wild beast. When the roar stopped, the palace door also finished changing shape. It was a monster with a bloody mouth and closed eyes. What kind of restriction is this? Looking at the lifelike beast head in front of him, Xiaohua felt a bit strange. He had never heard of a formation that looked like a spirit beast. Seeing the beast head appear, Zhen Ming didn't dare to be careless. He threw the token in his hand into the monster's mouth. After a while, the monster slowly closed its mouth, but its closed eyes slowly opened. When it saw Zhen Ming, the monster seemed to be angry. Seeing this, Zhen Ming opened his mouth and sprayed a strand of his life origin into the monster's left eye. Then, Zhen Ming's right hand continuously formed seals and hit the monster's right eye. With Zhen Ming's seals, the monster's right eye gradually turned blue. As for its left eye, it had already turned red when the life origin was sprayed into it. When one of the monster's eyes was almost pure red and the other was almost pure blue, the monster that appeared at the entrance of the hall suddenly opened its mouth. Zhen Ming reached his hand into the monster's mouth, and with a flash of light, his identity token was taken out. Then, a red and blue light slowly extended from the monster's mouth. It was a narrow path of light. The red and blue path of light extended to Zhen Ming's feet and stopped moving. Zhen Ming pointed his finger and said to Xiao Hua, "Take your identity token out of your storage bag. Leave your storage bag here. Go through this flight of stairs. The magic tools used by aura refining disciples are in the first room. The other rooms are used by foundation establishment disciples and above. There is a restriction in the middle. Your identity token can't pass through, so don't force your way through. Also, as a disciple participating in the Feather Immortal Assembly, you only have the right to choose one magic tool. Don't take more than that." "Thank you, Deacon." Xiao Hua cupped his hands and took his identity token out of his storage bag. He handed the bag to Zhen Ming and looked at the path of light under his feet. He lifted his leg and was about to step on it. Zhen Ming hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, "Actually, the quality of a magic tool can't be judged by its appearance. Many inconspicuous magic tools might be very powerful. Also, there are some damaged magic tools in the East Room. Some of them are fragments of magic tools." Zhen Ming's words were vague. Xiao Hua nodded slightly and stepped on the path of light. Sure enough, without Xiao Hua taking a step, the path of light automatically shrank and brought Xiao Hua into the mouth of the monster. When Xiao Hua's figure entered the mouth of the monster, the same two-colored light sprinkled on Xiao Hua's body like a drizzle. The identity token in Xiao Hua's hand emitted a faint brilliance and absorbed the light. Behind the monster's mouth was the door of the hall that Xiao Hua saw before. Xiao Hua walked forward and pushed with his arms. The door opened silently. What entered Xiao Hua's eyes was a rather large hole. There were many big and small bubbles floating in the hall. The bubbles were transparent, and each of them contained a magic tool and a jade slip. Haha! When Xiao Hua saw this, he was overjoyed. He flew forward and waved his hand to find a bubble. The bubble flew in front of Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua stretched his hand and easily reached into the bubble. When Xiao Hua took out a magic tool that looked like a flute, the bubble didn't fly away. Instead, it stopped in front of Xiao Hua's eyes. According to the jade slip, this flute was a rare magic tool that could attack with sound. When combined with music, it could make the enemy fall into an illusion. Combined with music? Xiao Hua immediately thought of ancestor Zhen Qing from Zhen Lei Palace. He thought to himself, "I'm afraid that only someone like ancestor Zhen Qing could use this magic tool." Soon after, Xiao Hua put the flute and the jade slip into the bubble. The bubble slowly flew away again. After that, Xiao Hua found a few more magic tools in the hall. Some were whips, some were plates, and there was also a very exquisite-looking armor. However, Xiaohua felt that they weren't ideal. He looked at the air in the hall again and saw so many bubbles. Xiaohua frowned. It was very troublesome to search one by one. Moreover, his divine sense couldn't penetrate the bubbles. He could only take the magic tools out of the bubbles to know their specific effects. It seemed that what Zhen Ming said about fate was true. When he wanted to search for it again, he saw a red and blue light path stretching out from the western wall. This path leads to the inside. Xiaohua looked at it with envy. He knew that it should be a magic tool used by a Foundation establishment cultivator. It might even be a magic tool used by a golden core cultivator. And, let's go to the east room first. Since the deacon reminded me, maybe there's something good there? Even if it's a magic tool fragment, it might be more powerful than a magic tool. Xiaohua then turned his gaze to a small door on the east side of the hall. The inside of the door was very different from the hall. It was very ordinary, just like a room in an ordinary house where junk was stored. There was a rough table with all kinds of strange junk on it. Of course it was junk. Xiaohua first saw something that looked like a flying sword, but the tip of the sword was long gone. Next to the flying sword, there seemed to be a rhombus-shaped array plate. However, in the middle of the array plate, there was a medium-sized hole. It's really a fragment. Xiaohua smiled and used his divine sense to scan the room. He felt that the magic power fluctuations on the junk in the room were very strong. However, the fluctuations didn't follow a pattern. He thought that the magic tool had been destroyed and the array inside was also damaged. Why isn't there a jade slip? Xiaohua used his divine sense to look at the magic tool fragments in the room and suddenly thought, no wonder no one wants these magic tool fragments. Xiaohua slapped his forehead and understood. Although these fragments are powerful, I don't know how to use them. What's the use? It's not even as good as a low-level magic tool. Fine, if others don't want it, what do I want? Xiaohua withdrew his divine sense and turned to leave. However, just as he turned around, in the corner of the room, a palm-sized square bucket with a broken corner attracted his gaze. This thing looks very strange. Xiaohua thought and walked to the front of the bucket. In fact, what attracted his gaze wasn't the bucket, but a pile of small round balls inside the bucket. Chapter 1590. The 9 small spheres were of different sizes. The big ones were like chicken eggs, and the small ones were like pearls. They were all oval in shape, and their surfaces were bumpy. When Xiaohua held the 9 small spheres in his hand, he discovered that there were small cracks on each sphere, and some of the cracks even went deep into the center of the sphere. When Xiaohua's divine sense swept across these spheres, a strange fluctuation of spiritual power came from them. This is a sword pill? Xiaohua suddenly remembered the sword cultivator from the Huan country that Wuxia had just mentioned. Didn't that sword cultivator nurture a sword pill in his dantian, and from that sword pill, a flying sword was born? With a flying sword, he could block thousands of magic treasures and move unhindered between heaven and earth? For some reason, when Wuxia had mentioned sword cultivators, Xiaohua had a kind of longing in his heart, a kind of longing to fly on a sword. It seemed that he liked flying swords from the bottom of his heart. And now, when he saw the sword pill and discovered that the spiritual power fluctuations in the 9 sword pills were connected to each other, it was obviously a complete set of sword pills. He couldn't help but feel like he had seen something he loved and had a desire to take it for himself. But this sword pill, I don't know how to nurture it, nor do I know how to control a sword? Xiaohua thought and waved his hand regretfully, and the sword pill floating in the air fell into the small bucket. After putting down the sword pill, Xiaohua looked at the other fragments of magic treasures. Unfortunately, no matter what the shape of the fragments was or how strong the spiritual power fluctuations were, in Xiaohua's eyes, they were all ignored. Sigh! Xiaohua sighed and unconsciously looked back at the sword pill in the small bucket. At this moment, Xiaohua kicked something. That thing was extremely heavy, and when Xiaohua kicked it, he actually staggered. Damn it! Xiaohua looked down and saw a pair of pitch-black hammers under the table. They were placed in a pile of junk. He scanned with his divine sense and found that there were no spiritual power fluctuations. Demonic tools! Xiaohua was overjoyed. Just as he was about to lower his head to look, his heart stirred. His eyes turned, and he straightened his body. He picked up a palm-sized disc from the table beside him and carefully examined it. After a while, Xiaohua leisurely walked around this table and went to the other tables. Only after Xiaohua had more or less finished looking through the fragments in the room, did he return to the main hall. However, after looking at the sword pellet and looking at these magic tools again, they were almost all trash. He was not interested at all. Forget it, forget it. Xiaohua gritted his teeth, turned around, and walked to the front of the sword pellet. He extended his hand, picked up the small bucket, and turned around to leave the hall. Outside the hall, in front of an oval mirror, Zhan Ming was watching with interest. Next to him, Helplessness's face was ashen. He couldn't help but curse. This little brat is biting off more than he can chew. When Zhan Ting heard that, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. He wiped his hand and the mirror disappeared. He smiled and said, "Senior brother Helplessness, your disciple, has good taste." Humph. He helplessly flicked his sleeves and turned around to leave. Coincidentally, Xiaohua came out from the palace and said in surprise, "Master, you've returned so quickly? Come take a look. Is this thing?" "There's no need to look. That thing is a sword pellet." "Damn it, why did I talk to you about sword cultivation just now? Let's not talk about how this thing needs to be nurtured from the first layer of aura refining first. Only then can a sword cultivator's heart and mind be connected and achieve the final unity of body and sword. Let's talk about nurturing. Where did you get the sword cultivation method to practice this sword pellet?" Helplessness stopped and said coldly, "Moreover, these 9 sword pellets of yours seem to be a set of sword formations. Even if you're an Aurus core cultivator now, I'm afraid you won't be able to control them freely, right? Hurry up, take advantage of the fact that you haven't left the hall and quickly go back and change them for me." "Ah? Master." Xiaohua held the small bucket in his hand and was stunned on the spot. Senior brother Helplessness, your disciple has already left the treasury. You can't go back on the chosen magic tool." As Zhan Ming said that, he formed a seal with his hands. The dual-colored light under Xiaohua's feet disappeared, and the monster's head above the palace door also slowly disappeared, revealing an ordinary palace door. "Humph!" Helplessness coldly snorted. His body floated up and flew outside like lightning. Behind him, Zhan Ming chuckled and said, "Senior brother Helplessness, this thunder hall forbids flying." Seeing Helplessness fly away, Xiaohua's face had an indescribable expression. He walked in front of Zhan Ming and smiled apologetically. "Martial uncle disciple, hasn't come down from the stairs yet?" Zhan Ming handed over the storage bag in his hand and said with a smile, "Didn't this old man say that everything depends on fate? Maybe you have fate with this set of sword pellets? But disciple doesn't have a cultivation method." Xiaohua smiled bitterly. "Then this old man wants to help, but is unable to." Zhan Ming spread his hands and said, "Maybe in the future, you can go to Huan country and see if you can obtain their sword technique." "Okay," Xiaohua helplessly took the storage bag and said, "Then disciple, can only take this set of sword pellets." As he said that, Xiaohua was about to put the small bucket into the storage bag. You can take that sword pellet, but why take out this small bucket as well?" Zhan Ming pointed at the small bucket holding the sword pellet and said with a smile, "Oh, this small bucket." Xiaohua stared blankly. He always thought that this small bucket was together with the sword pellet. Thus he grinned and said, "You actually took too much. Martial uncle, open the hall door again and disciple will return this small bucket." "Ha ha," Zhan Ming laughed loudly. "You wish. How can the treasury let you enter as you wish?" Then Xiaohua scratched his head and smiled apologetically. "Then this junior will take the sword pellet. I'll have to trouble Martial uncle to send this small bucket to the treasury." Forget it, forget it." Zhen Ming waved his hand. "You took a useless sword pellet, and your master blew his beard and glared at you. Who knows how he's cursing this old man in his heart? This small bucket can be considered a gift to you." "It can't be?" Xiaohua was delighted, but then his face turned bitter. Of course, since this small bucket could be taken away by him, then, was there any need to say the value of this sword pellet? No wonder he had no choice but to leave in a huff. Xiaohua resolutely handed over the small bucket, yes, the bucket and the sword pellet, and said very righteously, "Martial uncle, how can this junior take advantage of the treasury? Why don't you take it back? Let's go." Zhen Ming ignored him and turned to leave. As he walked, he said, "This item has been in the treasury for thousands of years. No one has ever taken a good look at it. You have fate with them, so you should take it." Damn it! I thought this artifact fragment was something good. This was the only thought in Xiaohua's mind as he followed Zhan Ming out of the hall. Outside the hole, of course, Helpless had already disappeared. Xiaohua had no choice but to fly back to the myriad Thunder Valley. As if he had already received the news, Xiangyang also had a strange expression on his face as he greeted Xiaohua. When Xiaohua saw Xiangyang, he asked in a low voice, "Where's Master?" He went back to his residence and didn't come out. Just now, he said that Master's wife told me to come out and pick you up. Xiangyang also said in a low voice. It seems like Master is really angry. He said that he wants me to go to the Lightning Hall to take your 2 artifacts a month later. He doesn't want to see you anymore. No way. Xiaohua was unhappy. Let's go back to the residence first. Xiangyang brought Xiaohua back to his residence. Yan Qinglian brought the spirit fruit over and looked at Xiaohua. She said seriously, "Little junior brother, this is your fault." Xiaohua's heart trembled. He bowed and said, "Senior sister, please teach me." "AI, didn't you see that Master has been reminding you? Our cultivation is about concentration. Don't be confused by the many spells and abilities. Cultivation is the most important thing. Little junior brother, have you never heard of the phrase, 'Only one of the 3,000 paths of the Tao is enough'?" Xiaohua shook his head. "I don't know." Qinglian, little junior brother, is a wandering cultivator. In the past, he was afraid that he didn't have enough techniques and spells. How could he know so much? Xiangyang reminded. "AI, no wonder." Yan Qinglian said sympathetically. "This phrase means that there are 3,000 paths of the same Tao. For us, only one path is enough. Don't covet a second path." Xiaohua nodded. Little junior brother practiced 3 types of techniques when he was in the Qi refinement stage. Now, relying on the concealed fire physique, he directly rushed to the beginning of the 12th layer of the Qi refinement stage. It's already very rare, but the most important thing is still to build your foundation. If you can't build your foundation, everything else is useless. Yan Qinglian explained. Master asked your eldest senior brother to guide you more because he wanted you to learn from his lesson. Focus on cultivation and don't be unfocused. The Feather Immortal gathering this time is a good opportunity for you to exchange ideas. You can choose a suitable magic tool. On one hand, you can show your face at the Feather Immortal gathering. On the other hand, it's beneficial for the control and growth of your spiritual sense. More importantly, it'll increase your chances of building your foundation. However, you just had to take a sword cultivator's sword pill. That thing is indeed very powerful, but our Thunder Control sect doesn't have the corresponding sword controlling technique. Aren't you missing a magic tool for no reason? Xiangyang continued. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that you'll have something in your heart after taking this sword pill. In the future, you might come across some sword controlling technique and want to practice flying swords. Sword cultivators are naturally different from our Dao sect. If you divide your energy to practice flying swords, won't you delay your own cultivation? This. Xiaohua faintly felt that these words might not be true, but it sounded like everything was taken into account. That's right, but he couldn't bear to throw away the sword pill. He could only murmur, "Martial Uncle Zhan from the treasure pavilion won't let me return it. Then, I'll take it first." Yan Qinglian looked at Xiangyang, and Xiangyang could only nod. "Then take it first. But don't practice it." "Yes, I know." Xiaohua nodded. Then for dozens of days, Xiaohua stayed in Xiangyang's cave and practiced the basic magic of the Thunder Control sect with Xiangyang. Their master had no choice but to not show up again. Chapter 1591. Imperial Thunder School's foundational spells were different from Foam Clan's foundational spells. Not only were there more types of spells, but the same spells were also much stronger. For example, The Thunder Palm was considered a high-level spell in Foam Clan's foundational spells, but in Imperial Thunder School's foundational spells, it could only be considered a middle-level spell. Moreover, in the hands of Imperial Thunder School's disciples, not only could they make the thunder bigger or smaller, the shape of the thunder wasn't as simple as a bar. Of course, the difficulty of Imperial Thunder School's foundational spells was also much higher than Foam Clan's foundational spells. Moreover, many of the spells were based on thunder-attributed heaven and earth spiritual energy. For example, the thunder sound transmission technique was much more difficult than the thunder sound transmission talisman. However, if you didn't have a deep understanding of thunder-attributed heaven and earth spiritual energy, you wouldn't be able to comprehend it. Because of this, Xianxia originally thought that Xiaohua would need a long time to practice Imperial Thunder School's foundational spells, but the truth made him flabbergasted. Xiaohua seemed to have a natural sensitivity towards spells. He could understand many spells with just a little bit of guidance. He could even comprehend more complex spells by analogy based on the foundational spells. Although Xiaohua only followed Xianxia for a month, Xianxia already felt that he had nothing to teach him. In fact, it wasn't that he didn't have more spells, but no matter how profound the spells were, Xiaohua's cultivation wasn't enough. No matter how low-level the spells were, Xianxia felt that he didn't need to teach them. Xiaohua could grasp them by himself. After all, when Xiaohua was a rogue cultivator, he practiced Foam Clan's foundational spells by himself. Therefore, when a month's time was up, Xianxia simply made a copy of the myriad Thunder Valley's foundational spells Jade Slip and gave it to Xiaohua. He had Xiaohua return to the Eastern Ridge to practice. When he encountered something he couldn't comprehend, he would come back to the cave to teach. Then, he brought Xiaohua to Bright Thunder Hall again. On one side of the Bright Thunder Hall was a crimson-red mountain wall. On the mountain wall there were many caves. The caves looked very ordinary, but every disciple who went in and out would have a faint glow around them. Clearly, there were restrictions placed on the caves as well. Xianxia brought Xiaohua to the front of the stone wall and stopped moving forward. Instead, he slapped his hand and took out a thunder sound transmission talisman. He activated his magic power and the thunder sound transmission talisman flew into one of the holes. Before long, an 8th-layer aura refining boy walked out with a storage pouch in his hand. Looking around, he walked up to Xianxia and bowed respectfully. "Senior Martial Brother, are you Martial Uncle Helpless Disciple?"
"I am."
Xianxia returned the greeting. "I have been ordered by my master to retrieve 2 items." The disciple didn't hand over the storage bag. He smiled and said, "Senior Brother, what is the name of the thing you want?" "One is Zhe Chen, the other is Zhao Guan."
"Hee, it's these 2.
said the disciple with a smile. He then handed the interspatial pouch to the 2 of them. Xianxia took the pouch and passed it to Xiaohua without even looking at it. Xiaohua opened his storage pouch. Inside there were 2 magic tools. One was in the shape of a sphere, and the other was a ring. Your ring was extremely different from the mirror. Xiaohua took out the ring. Just as he was about to urge his magic power to test it out, he heard Xianxia say, "Little junior brother, don't be impatient." Soon after, he untied a small storage pouch from his waist and handed it over. He smiled and said, "Junior brother, please take care of this." The boy took the pouch and opened it. He nodded and said, "It's perfect. Thank you, senior brother." He then reached out and took out a jade slip from his bosom. He handed it to Xianxia and said with a smile, "The spells of these 2 magic tools have been changed. The previous spells are all ineffective. In the future, senior brother, please use this new spell." Xianxia didn't find it strange. Under Xiaohua's thoughtful gaze, he took the jade slip and cupped his hands. "Thank you. Thank you, your master." "You're welcome, you're welcome." The disciple bowed in return. He turned around and entered the cave. After the 2 of them left the stone wall, Xiaohua whispered, "Eldest senior brother, did you give him spirit stones?" Xianxia nodded and said, "Of course. Asking a tool refiner from Bright Thunder Hall to refine a magic tool naturally requires spirit stones." "How many spirit stones?" Xiaohua whispered. "I still have a lot of spirit stones here. They're all supreme grade spirit stones. How many can you have?" Xianxia waved his hand and said, "These are all given by master. Don't worry." "All right," Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, Xiangyang handed the jade slip over and said with a smile, "This is a new spell. In the future, even if the Patriarch of Spirit Husbandry sect comes, he probably won't be able to recognize that this is their magic tool."
Hee, very good.
Xiao Hua took the jade slip and put it into his storage pouch without even looking at it. However, he was still thinking about something. There were some basic tool refinement techniques in his space, but he hadn't had the time to look at them. Now that he saw how magical tool refinement techniques were, he wanted to find some time to look at them. While they were talking, a group of disciples in bright clothes walked over while talking and laughing. Most of these disciples were in the early stage of foundation establishment. There were a few in the middle stage of foundation establishment and chi refinement. When Xiangyang saw them, he frowned slightly and stopped walking, as if he was avoiding them. Xiao Hua didn't know why Xiangyang was like this, but he also stood beside Xiangyang. He only glanced at them before lowering his head to think about his own matters.
"Oh, it's this guy."
The crowd had obviously already walked past Xiao Hua and the others, and a slightly shrill voice called out. Xiao Hua felt very strange and couldn't help but raise his head to look. He saw a disciple who wasn't very tall and looked about the same age as Xiao Hua a few feet away from him. He had a fierce expression on his face and one of his hands was pointing at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua was stunned and looked around. There was no one beside him other than Xiangyang?
Me.
Xiao Hua was surprised. This disciple looked very unfamiliar. However, when Xiao Hua looked carefully, his face turned cold and his eyes narrowed slightly. He remembered that the disciple who was pointing at him was an opponent that Xiao Hua had encountered in the disciple selection of the Feather Immortal Assembly in the Heavenly Thunder Palace not long ago. However, Xiao Hua had encountered more than 200 opponents at that time, and he didn't have the heart to continue fighting, so he didn't remember clearly. If this disciple hadn't pointed at him, he definitely wouldn't have remembered. Thinking of this opponent who had been forced to death by him using a fireball talisman. Fourth senior brother. It's this guy. This guy defeated this little brother, and that's why I fell to the 21st place. If it weren't for him, this little brother would definitely have obtained the qualifications to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. That disciple's expression was somewhat angry, and he said to a middle foundation establishment disciple, "This time, this little brother lost the face of my Swallow Thunder Ridge. Even that guy Qian Diheng was able to participate, but this little brother fell behind." When Qian Diheng saw this little brother, he laughed at this little brother. This little brother couldn't find which disciple didn't give my Swallow Thunder Ridge face, so, this is actually a disciple of my Thunderous Thunder Palace? When the fourth senior brother heard this, his face turned cold. He looked past Xiangyang and directly at Xiao Hua. The pressure of a middle foundation establishment cultivator was instantly released from his body, and it pressed down on Xiao Hua like a mountain. This pressure was very strange. It was a pressure that was naturally formed after a cultivator entered the foundation establishment stage. As the cultivator's realm increased, the pressure would also increase. This pressure had nothing to do with dermic powers, it only depended on the realm. Therefore, although Xiao Hua's magic power was profound, he had no way of defending against this pressure. Seeing that the pressure was about to land on his body, Xiao Hua already felt that the pressure was heavy, and his magic power was stagnating. But at this moment, Xiangyang, who was beside Xiao Hua, moved. Xiangyang, who didn't want to cause any trouble, also released his spiritual pressure. In Xiao Hua's perception, the release of the spiritual pressure of two foundation establishment cultivators was like two perilous waves crashing into each other. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth was stirred up, giving rise to a small hurricane. Junior brother Xiangyang. The fourth senior brother sneered. "Is this a disciple of your 10,000 Thunder Valley? How come I have never heard of him?" Xiangyang's expression was indescribable, and he said in a deep voice, "Zhen Weixing, whether my 10,000 Thunder Valley accepts disciples or not doesn't seem to have anything to do with Swallow Thunder Ridge, right? Whether you know or not, Xiao Hua is still a disciple of my 10,000 Thunder Valley."
Xiao Hua.
Not a bad name. Seeing that Xiangyang released his pressure, Zhen Weixing also took advantage of the situation to withdraw his pressure, and said coldly, "However, 10,000 Thunder Valley has always only produced cowards. Xiao Hua, are you willing to fight with my Swallow Thunder Ridge disciple on the Thunder Arena?" Hearing this, Xiangyang's expression changed greatly, and he took half a step forward, saying angrily, "What grudge does my 10,000 Thunder Valley have with your Swallow Thunder Ridge? You actually want to fight to the death on the Thunder Arena?" Hearing this, Xiaohua's expression also became slightly angry. Although he didn't know what the Thunder Arena was, it actually involved life and death. How could he not be angry? "Haha, I told you 10,000 Thunder Valley has always been cowards. Xianxia, I remember that when someone invited you to the Thunder Arena, you didn't show up. Today, I still haven't officially sent out an invitation. You immediately refused. With such cowardice, how can you achieve the Great Tao?" Zhan Weixing's words became more and more unpleasant, and even overbearing. "My junior brother Xiao Hua's cultivation is only at the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. You, a middle foundation establishment senior, actually extended an invitation. Don't you feel ashamed?" Xiangyang was unmoved, and snorted disdainfully. "If you agree, my Swallow Thunder Ridge will naturally have disciples of the same cultivation level to receive you. How can I bully the weak?" Seeing this, Xiaohua took a step forward and berated, Shut up." Xiangyang grabbed Xiaohua and scolded, "Elder brother is here. What right do you have to speak?" "Yes, disciple obeys eldest senior brother's order." Xiaohua lowered his head and said. Xiangyang looked at Zhan Weixing with a cold smile, and said confidently, "My junior brother obtained the qualification to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. Even if he agrees, do you dare to go to the Thunder Arena?" "Fourth senior brother." The disciple next to him was shocked and angry and said, He actually snatched my qualification. I must take his life." "Shut up." Zhan Weixing snorted coldly, and glared at the disciple. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go." The surrounding people all fiercely glared at Xiaohua and Xiangyang, and then hurriedly left with Zhan Weixing. Xiaohua was left with a watery expression on his face. He narrowed his eyes as he watched their departing figures, and said in a low voice, "Where there are people, there will be fighting. Master's wife is right." You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.